her leaving the city. I would like to see her, someone ask her to come back to that position and give her a raise. I've had numbers of people brag about that lady and how she treats the public. And I think she did a great job in that position, and I think it was a mixture of various events that none of which were completely her fault that caused her to be terminated or resign. So I ask you to do that. People's livelihood is important, and we don't want to interrupt those things.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Next, I got it. You can go next. Who's next?
The next person is Shayla Riley.
Sorry.
Thank you. Good evening, Shayla Riley, 425 South French Avenue, Fort Meade, Florida. I'll read it quickly. After consistently attending commission meetings for about a year, in my humble opinion, I believe 2 of 5 commissioners that's currently seated do not have the best interest at heart for all Fort Meadians. It showed more recently when the Lien Forgiveness Initiative died. With the rapid growth within our county and state, we need to beautify this town and get businesses here to hopefully attract people, or before we know it, we'll be South Bartow. One of the commissioners doesn't know how to speak to others and can always find a way of interrupting any conversation. I ask that 2 of the 5 commissioners consider resigning and enjoy the later of their years. It's time for fresh and new ideas. We can't keep things the same for another 25 years. I ask that the commission also consider keeping Mr. Burke in the current position of city manager. Now is not the time to bring anyone into a broken system. From what I have seen so far, it seems like Mr. Burke is uncovering a lot of things that many wish have stayed buried. We don't bring guests, people to our homes when it's under construction. We bring them once the project is completed. So it is my ask that we keep Mr. Burke. Thank you.
Gregory, last name I can't read, it looks like Ash.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Gregory Ash. Address is 707 South French, Fort Meade, Florida. My question is to the commissioners why the city is not passing for our church to expand. We went through South Water Management, we took care of that, and we took care of all the soil testing, and all we want to do is advance our church, bring it up to speed, just classrooms, that's all it is. And I want to know why the city is holding it back because of parking. Because all those people that live there live from Charleston back to Railroad, which is walking distance. So I'd like to know what's the holdup on that project. Because the city itself holding up that project. And I want to know why.
Thank you.
Thank you. See.
Pamela Clark Boyd.
For the record, that church is Mount Pleasant Primitive Baptist Church.
Yes.
Good evening, Pamela Clark Boyd, 308 Sherwood Drive. I'm just going to make this extremely brief. I've only been back in town for 1 year, and what I've seen and or experienced in my hometown has been absolutely not only surprising, but disgusting in so many manners that we do not want to move forward. Whether I like someone or not, it does not give me the right to be disrespectful. And I think sometimes when we elect ourselves to be in a position that we represent other people. We need to be extremely cognitive when we are out in public and we are voicing our opinion of who we like and don't like, as in we need to make sure that Greg King is out of there and we need to get Dustin out of there because I don't like them. You don't know who's around, you don't know who's listening, and you don't know the community connections. So I would advise you, not only as professionals, but as adults, to be hyper vigilant and have situational awareness when you are speaking out in public and voicing your personal but not professional opinions.
Yes, ma'am. Tina Leah.
Tina Lee, 1825 Lakeview Drive, Fort Bend, Florida. I'd just like to say, I know I can be a little harsh sometimes. I might say what other people won't say. I'm kind of blunt. But I believe that Dustin has done an excellent job since he's been there. And I do believe that considering somebody that's already been terminated from somewhere else to fill this position at this time is a very bad decision. I also do not think it's fair that some city commissioners have code violations on their own homes that have never been written up. And you can ride by their houses and there's tarps on their roof that's been there for over a year. And I think it's time that everyone is held to the same standard all throughout our city. Not just who wants what done for who, but for everyone in this town. Thank you.
Wanda Whitehurst.
Good evening, Wanda Whitehurst, 850 Southeast Pine Avenue, Fort Meade. I'd just like to start by saying I was in the meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, and I sat in on the interviews. I was not impressed with either candidate, and that's just my personal opinion. The only qualification that I think Mr. Burke does not possess is that he has not been a city manager with the same amount of years of experience. It is evident that he can do the job, and he's doing a very good job.
Yes.
Yes, he's bringing about the change. While I respect the commission that we elected, we also expect you all to represent the voice of the people, not to come with your own personal agenda. We are the voice of the people. Our voices speak loud and we speak volume. It is our suggestion that we give Mr. Burke at least a contingent contract if you don't want to give him an open contract. We are the voice of the people. We thank you.
Okay, all right. At this time, we'll close the public forum. Moving on to item G, approval of minutes for May 14th. Entertain a motion, or if there are any questions or anything that needs to be discussed, do so at this time.
Madam Mayor, make a motion that we approve the minutes of May 14th.
All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of approval of our minutes from, discussion? Go ahead, sir.
Yes, at the, I had to go back and review the minutes, but it states on the third page, page 8, is what it says at the top. 1, 2, 3, third item down. Attorney Powell stated he doesn't have an answer for that, stating it is pretty rare, but he will get the answer and send it to the commission. So my question is, did that happen?
Say which item is that?
This is on, at the top of the page, it says page 8, under new business.
This was order, is he on being Zoom tonight?
No, he's unavailable. But I'll touch bases with him and make sure we get the answer, response.
Okay. She said she would.
Well, you're not approving what's being said, you're approving that was said in the meeting. Yeah.
So we're confirming that was said. Haven't had a response.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a response. Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes from May 14th, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item H, our consent agenda. Item H. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Ms. McWhorter, do we need to read the title for item 4, being that we added that item to the consent agenda?
I think we should.
Okay, please do that.
Madam Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as written,
Okay,
with adding item 4.
yes, item 4, the attorney's gonna read the title to item 4, H4.
This is not in the book. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Meade designating the mayor or the city manager as the mayor's designee to certify the city's annual financial reporting, the state's log arts portal, and providing an effective date, whereas pursuant to Florida Statute 218.321A, the city of Fort Meade is required to submit an annual financial report to the state's logger exporter each year, and whereas Florida Statute 218.321A mandates that the AFR be certified by the chair of the governing board and the chief financial officer, and whereas the city auditors Mike Bernjufso and how do you pronounce it?
I don't know.
We don't.
Bernjufso, CPA, PA, has prepared the 23 AFR and triggered the Logger X system to send a notification that the report is ready for certification. And whereas the city commission desires to designate the mayor of the city manager as the mayor's designee to certify the city's AFR and the Logger X portal to ensure compliance with Florida Statute 218.321A and streamline the certification process. Now therefore, it is resolved by the Commission of the City of Fort Meade. Section 1, the foregoing whereas clauses are hereby ratified and confirmed as being true, correct, and hereby made as a specific part of this resolution upon adoption thereof. Section 2, the City Commission hereby designated the mayor or the city manager as the mayor's designee to certify the city's annual financial report and the state logger exporter. The mayor is authorized to designate the city manager to certify the annual financial report on their behalf. This resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption.
Thank you. Alright. Any further questions regarding any items on the consent agenda?
None.
If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So they.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item I on tonight's agenda, our resolutions. Item 1,
Which is Resolution 24-45, resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, amending the employee handbook to include Juneteenth as an official paid holiday for city employees and providing for an effective date.
thank you.
Yes.
Move to approve of 2024-45, and in Juneteenth as the official holiday for city employees.
Second.
All right, we have a proper motion and a second to adopt resolution 2024, adding Juneteenth as an official holiday for city employees. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0.
All right.
Item 2,
Resolution 2024-37, a resolution of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, authorizing a code enforcement liens and fines amnesty program, providing that the city manager or designee is authorized to execute and record a satisfaction of liens upon full payment of code enforcement fines or penalties, providing that the city manager or designee shall consider any applications for reduction or forgiveness of code enforcement fines or liens when orders imposing such fines or penalties have been recorded in the public records, providing for an effective date.
thank you. All right, would you care to elaborate, sir?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This has come before the commission before. Since it came before the commission last, the city has done a lot more research. And last time we were here, we did not have a list. We do have a list, and that number continues to grow. Mr. King is here. It has been something that he has been spending a lot of time on, and he's here to present.
Okay, thank you. Come forward, Mr. King.
You have to clarify which key.
Mr. Greg King.
No, I was talking, speaking to Dustin, I was joking with Tommy last week. But good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Since the time and thank you so much for your patience, since the time that this item has come up, we have done quite a bit much more research. We wanted to allay any questions or concerns that the commission could have. I know it's a little different from the way things have done in the past. But in our analysis, we have been able to reconcile a list of code enforcement liens, not complete fines, because those are still not computerized. Those are still hand files that you would have to go into. And now since that time, also we have looked into a system that can, and I think the city had used the system in the past that can electronically keep your fines, create your forms, and update them. Just really quickly, what we found is there's a very low, and you all have a report. Sorry that it got to you so late, but I will tell you that this is an ever-changing and the deeper environment with the liens and the code enforcement, and the deeper you dig, the more you find. What we substantially found was this.
Excuse me, Ms. King, I'm trying to locate the report.
It was added
It's
to it. It
added
wasn't
to, saying it should be in there.
in the addition.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Berry.
Very thick.
And it is 35 pages. I'll give you the bird's eye view I wanted. Now, there's a couple of things that we did do in the report. First and foremost is we use parcel IDs. Now, anyone can go online and check the parcel ID, but just as a matter of privacy, and we weren't trying to spotlight anyone in particular. You know, some people in this room might have code enforcement fines or liens, and so we didn't want to point anyone out. But that's on the list. A lot of it we did realize was housekeeping. In the last 3 years, the deputy clerk has been actually excellent at whenever there was a lien taken care of, we do tie it back to the county clerk's office. And therefore, if you go to research, you'll pull it up and you'll see that the lien has been released. Now, before the last 3 years, it's a little hit and miss, and then you do have to go to the paper files. And we do have, as was mentioned previously, we do have about 25 properties with over $1 million in liens. The total outstanding liens is, that we have now, our total outstanding liens is $48 million, $48.8 million. And the amount of liens that we've billed for in the past 20 years is $67.5 million.
Come on.
The challenging part of the lien situation is we've only collected 1/4 of 1% of that amount. That's just over $100,000. Now, recently the city has been adding, and fairly effectively, because within 3 years you're going to get some money. They have been adding it to the tax assessment as a non-ad valorem assessment. So if the person does not pay, we do get the money back, and usually that's just for the hard costs. What we also have found is the amount of hard costs is minuscule. Even in our worst situations, unless the city has moved to foreclose, the hard costs are minimal. They might be lot cleanup, which generally runs from $275 to maybe $1,000, depending on the size of the lot. Most of the properties that were dilapidated, we have had some in the past few years demolitions, and they are added to the tax assessment. So they've been added, so then we get the vacant lot. But what we don't do is go back to the clerk's office. Now, it's just a vacant lot. We still have that lien from 15 years ago. That's $1.2, $1.3 million. So it's a lot of cleanup that has to happen on top of what we really have found too is quite a few of these properties have been foreclosed upon or sold as a tax deed. And they're in their second and third owner since the city had placed liens on them. The properties are brought up. They're beautiful properties. They have mortgages on them, which means that they can't be encumbered. So we haven't done something on our side just to clean up the books. Now, we do know that we do have properties, and it's very much a hit or miss, even when we found with the properties that we're moving to foreclose upon. And the entire point, just to make it quick, the entire point of the lien amnesty program is to give us time to clean this up. This has to be cleaned up for the city to move forward, because if people are calling now, we have open liens online, we have liens that are still accumulating, where the people have moved on, we have liens that have sold at tax sale, and the tax sale we got the surplus back we sent the assessment to the clerk, but when we get them back, and we just realized this week, when we've been getting them back, we haven't been applying them to. So we have to go back a couple of years, or longer than that, because we do have some people who have paid, who have liens, who have paid through tax assessment, and the liens haven't been removed. So it is very difficult. And then people, we target certain properties. I'll just say that. We target certain properties. One of the things that, and I want to be clear, that the onus for this issue came up. I know that there's commissioners here who, I've seen every last name in the book in the files, because I had to go through them by hand. Every last name is there. But what we had was an investor who called. And I think I mentioned this in the town hall meeting. He called and he said, hey, we got this property, we cleaned it up. It had $145,000 in liens. The property is gorgeous now. They paid an almost market amount for the property. They still went in and invested in cleaning it up. And he calls us, he was until last Thursday, and I asked him to just give us some time so that we could present before the commission. He called every day to see what we could do about the liens. And so the difference, and what we're asking for here, I think the major difference from what we had is we had an 85-15 plan previously. What we're saying now is we don't think that the liens have been organized. They're not. they're stuck in a drawer. The only way we know what a lien is if somebody calls and say, hey, I'm interested in buying this property, what are the liens? That's number one. And number two, if we can get it organized, it will kind of sort of help the city move properties, because some of these properties are, are marketable if we corrected the lien situation. And so the reason and as I advised in the town hall meeting, with the city manager is we have, I think, 142 open liens. So now if we have to come back to the commission, say we have, and I mean it could pass on consent, but just say we find a lien that has been resolved, the person is paid, like the 30 or so that I suspect have been paid through tax assessments, we would have to come back to the commission to issue a release for that. So we're asking, what our ask is for the city manager to be able to, to create those releases and hard costs be looked at. The only reason I say hard costs on a case-by-case basis, there are minimal hard costs. I will say this, in the past, I know that the system had been 85-15 and the liens have come before the commission. Was supposed to be the program as discussed in the commission meeting and passed by motion. I can tell you that quite a few liens have been reduced and have not come before the commission. That's number one. And quite a few liens have been reduced, I wouldn't say quite a few. A couple of liens have been reduced by the commission, a release was provided, and no payment was made. And we looked up and down, and we'll continue to look, because we want to be certain about something like that. So that has been happening in the past. We can't say who did or did not do it. So it's been kind of sort of that system already. And we do know what you all have asked for. So just as a matter of expediency, for a matter of cleanup, we're asking that the city manager, which most cities do, be allowed to provide the releases of liens through this one-year amnesty. And at the end of the one-year amnesty, hopefully everything will be brought up to date. It'll be systematic, and we'll be able to move forward, and we hopefully won't have too many of these lien situations, because quite a few of them are still being liened and the houses don't exist. The houses are gone. Wow. So, and I'm sorry, I did talk a lot. If you have any questions regarding the liens.
Yes, I had questions regarding the properties that have been already brought up to code, but they are still receiving liens. It would have been nice to see like photos of what these properties look like, where they're located, the size of the property, so on and so forth. Also, you spoke to the length of amnesty, which is a year. So are you saying that it would take 1 year to organize this file?
To be quite honest with you, Vice Mayor, I think it would take about a month at least, because we have to digitize the existing files also. We have actually at this time summer interns who that's going to be their first big project. It will probably take their duration, 8 to 9 weeks, to digitize everything, to start a program moving forward through an online or computer-based software. It will take about 2 to 3 months. And it will be extensive, because we have to first of all confirm that these situations are resolved. Yeah, it's painstaking. I mean, you have to, and this is the other thing. The file system now is based on name. So if you had 3 houses, you would have 3 different files, and I would have to go through each file. Now, if one of the houses sold, I would have to go through the property appraiser, look at who had the house, if the release is in 2019, and it's sold twice since then, I would have to go to the property appraiser's website, look and see who had it at that time, then go to the file and find that name, and that's where the information would be, even for the going forward owner.
It's my understanding that you cannot sell a property if you have liens.
You can. You can cash. You can cash. Cash, and then there are certain things that take the liens off, but that is like a big legal question, those type of things, because we've had some tax deed sales. We've brought back some properties, the city has, that will cure the liens, but we've had tax deed sales. In some cases, a foreclosure will take them off. But those are things like when it's more difficult, like we can see straightforwardly, if it's a tax assessment, they pay the cleanup costs, take that off. But when it's more of a difficult question, we'll have to, set them together, and bring those back to you and say, hey, we're gonna take these to the attorneys because there are some questions that aren't clear. And we have a few of those. And we have some that just complicated and convoluted, but yes, it's a myriad of things that deal with liens, and we don't want the city to be shorted. And this is to protect the city also, because even with the forfeitures and the foreclosures, it's like, the question is, well, why are they foreclosing on these properties? And they're like, oh, well, they're not homesteaded. Yeah, but this is like the 45th ranking liens. The properties that they're foreclosing on is like a hit or miss. They're foreclosing on vacant lots. And so we talk about hard costs. We have a vacant lot that might be worth $3,000, and we're spending $6,000 to foreclose on it. When in 3 years, we can get the tax deed back, if we wanted it back, or an investor would get the tax deed. But we're going to spend $6,000 to foreclose a lot and that's in here also. I really want to highlight one thing. Well, there's a few things that are important, but one of the things that's interesting is there's a page back here that we have the lien value versus, and that's page 26, the lien value versus the assessed value and we know sometimes assessed value is lower than the market value, so we know that. However, the first property, the appraised value is $2,150. We have $382,000 in liens on that property, which is 1,700 times. 1,700 times. Is that right? Or 170 times? 170 times, my math. 170 times the value. But that's how much liens we have. And it's started out at $800, and it's been assessed at $100 a day since 2013. Wow. So, and this is typical. I mean, our average lien assessment is 3 times the value of the property. That's average. Wow. That means any property you look at, and it occurs once you get towards the very bottom, but almost any property you look at, we're at least 3 times over that actual value of the property. Wow. So there was no, and a part of that too is this, and the deputy clerk has been extremely helpful in retrieving some of this information. And her lament is, well, there's been a lot of different systems. We need something in writing. And a part of this lien amnesty program is during that time, we can come in with a program and criteria saying, under these circumstances, we don't go over this amount, we don't go over this amount of period. Once it gets to here, this is what we're going to do. And it's not subjective anymore. It's objective, where we know what we're doing. And we won't be 170 times upside down on a vacant lot that's only worth $2,000, assessed at $2,000, so it could be worth $3,000. But we have a lot of that. We have quite a bit of that. That's just one. The next one is 150 times its value. If you want to look at we have a $123,000 assessed property that's at 10 times its value in assessments. That's a $1.4 million. And I will add, these are very little hard costs. Very little, even when our most infamous properties at Second and Oak, I think it is, very little hard costs. So $20,000 maybe, and I think that's already been paid. So the hard cost part, we do understand, and that's a case by case and under certain circumstances. But the liens and fines, that's a house cleaning thing more than it is even a leniency thing. Thank you, Commissioner Berry, Vice Mayor Berry.
What time do liens fall off?
20 years. So that's how far we went back. This is the last 20 years. We have liened about $68 million. We collected $100,000. And we don't have that much hard costs. If we can work it out, maybe get some more performing people in.
I hate to hear the city get all the rap on this, but if the people just come in the code in the beginning, there'd be no lien.
You're absolutely correct, and we understand that. The issue with coming before the commission might be a little difficult. Like, I can't be there at 6 o'clock. I don't want to deal with the government. Whereas if we could just go to the property owner and say, hey man, clean up your property, we'll release your liens because you don't have any hard costs. I think we can work that out. And to Commissioner, some of the properties that have $1.5 million in liens, the house doesn't even exist anymore. and we're still leaning.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'd be all in favor of just erasing the liens, period.
Microphone.
I would be in agreement to erase, talking about it, debating, and working it out, to forgive all the liens.
Yeah.
But the hard costs, we can't. That's taxpayer money that was spent on items for the public.
But we're not getting any money out of
I
it.
understand, Commissioner, and as I said, on a case-by-case basis, but when you look at the hard costs are there because we don't have a program. During this time, we will develop a program. Now, when you have, and this is, I will just say it directly, we've had some property owners that have been targeted. There's no way that you have a property that's worth $4,000 and you're, 93rd on the list of liens. As you have 60,000 in liens and somebody has 1.5 million. Why are they foreclosing on your property, which is subjective? I mean, they woke up that morning and say, we're gonna foreclose, whereas, and it's funnier because you don't really need to foreclose on a lot of these cases because they're tax deed sales. And some of these properties one of the properties that they're foreclosing on in the middle of foreclosure has been sold by tax deed. So it's not even the person who was on it, the property is cleaned up, it's gone on to a new owner, and it's moved on. The property has moved on, the city of Fort Meade has not. And so I think what happened is we didn't have a program. We just had people wake up that morning who decided this is what we're gonna do.
We've got a lot of people that don't want to get the code.
Absolutely,
That's what started the whole.
yes, sir. And I will tell you this too, you're absolutely right. And during this time, the public should know we're going to be less lenient. Less lenient. That's how the program should be implemented. With less leniency,
If $250 a day ain't gonna make them cut the grass, another year, they're not gonna do it at the end.
you're right, Commissioner, but neighborly, if I know my neighbor, has a small yard, she's 90 years old or 80 years old, or may have mental issues,
Amen.
I'll go cut her yard.
In the past years, the city has done stuff, I had reached out to people, would you volunteer to go?
We'll work it out. I think we'll work it out. Yes, sir, we'll work on that, but this is our year. I think you take this year to figure that part out, and then moving forward, you have your program in place, you have everyone, it's easier, you just come in and talk to the city manager, who'll have a customer service day, or he'll go out in the community. He'll go out and sit in front of the, whoever the city manager is, go sit in front of the community center, and say, hey, if you got a lien, come on by, let's talk about it. Over coffee. Just have a little marketing type of thing where you go out.
I'm not averse to erasing liens,
Yes, sir, we understand.
because they get carried away, and we do need to restructure our fine process.
Yes, sir.
The whole rate.
Yes, sir.
But it's just misfeasance, borderline of malfeasance, when you give this kind of money away that's been spent on the hard costs.
Correct, and we understand that, but again, I just want to be clear, it's not that much. When you say hard costs, it might be a couple of $100,000 total out of 48 million. It's less than a half of a percent. No, it's 48 million in fines. It might be a
I'm gonna get rid of those
yeah,
liens. But the hard costs,
okay.
we need to get back to the taxpayers.
Okay. Okay, and as I said again, I think in actuality too, Commissioner, most of the hard costs are gone. I think what happens is we have, I'll give you a quick story. I was living in a condo. I went to pay, I will tell you about hard costs because it's important, dealing with lawyers. I went to pay my condo fees. 2 months later, they say, hey, you guys haven't paid your condo fees. I said, yes, we did. I wrote a letter, it came from an attorney, I wrote a letter back to the attorney. I said, can you all look and just give me a report of my payments? They wrote me a letter back. The letter said, we did not receive your payment, and here's an additional bill for $400. 2 years later, they were removing the door from the condo office. They had a slot where we put our payments. My check was stuck in that slot. But my point was, I ended up paying $400 plus $200 for that 1 month of, because I'm like, if I write them another letter trying to prove, and that's what we get when you say attorney fees, we get a, hey, you shouldn't be foreclosing on me because you're not foreclosing on John next to me with 10 times the liens. And they send you a letter back saying, hey, but the city said foreclose, now you're at $1,000. And that's the thing we have to look at too. That is the onus. That is the gentleman over here who said they bought that house almost, I don't want to, and the reason why we didn't bring pictures, Vice Mayor, I really don't want to put anyone out there unless they've said that. So we don't want to put anyone on Front Street. I'll just say, the gentleman over there, they bought the house almost at market. And with an investor, every day is interest. And that's what they said to us, and we say, hey, if you can hold on, I think the commission is going to help you and other people who want to come in and homeowners. So, and that's what you get. Every day it's money, and we have to look at, and if there's a hard cost, and I think that's what we can look at too, depending on how many hard costs there are, those things will be brought back to the commission for review. But all the soft costs, the fines that compound every day, we definitely, a lot of the situations, if the person has resolved, all of those situations, if the person resolved it, you know, it should be, because of, we really don't have a system.
Well, you need to rework it, I'm willing to discuss it and work on a program. I'm not satisfied with this is.
I understand, and if you have any questions that we can address in the process, we do understand your hard costs.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
my reservations with this program is the length of time as well as it being subjective. Because when we then extend, and this is based on past experiences, when we then give, because our previous city manager was given 3 different avenues to solve this same problem. Right? And so, thank you. So as I was saying, and then it was subjective at that point. Certain people received, as you say, was targeted and others were not. We need to move forward and prevent that again. So it should not be subjective, and it should have already into this program how this is going to work. And my ultimate desire is for every single case to come back before the commission for approval.
Yes, sir.
I agree with that, going back to the commission.
I totally agree too.
How would that look? Because we have 142 cases of outstanding liens.
Well, you've already said that it will take about 2 to 3 months to clear up. So if we extend the time of a quarter, 12 months, and then that next quarter, we should begin to hear from these things. We already have a process in place with the magistrate. Right? And so, in moving forward, and the reason he's suggesting the magistrate is because that's just standard that we receive pictures of these properties. So that's nothing that, whether they're embarrassed or not, it is what it is. And so that's the way the process has always worked. And so we need to stay in line, streamline that.
And there's another issue with that, and I think it kind of sort of also motivated previous administrations, just to the managers, to even bring it back before the commission, is when people are selling properties and we have a sale date, like our meeting is today, they have a closing date of next Friday, investors close pretty quickly, and it's all soft costs, then we have to tell them, oh, well, hold your closing date off, and the property's resolved, the issues are resolved, hold your closing date off, and you'll wait, but that's costing them money. Everyone's money is tied up, and a lot of times you can lose a real estate deal like that. And so when you're talking, hey, this property shouldn't be liened at all because the house that was there doesn't exist, the property is fine, it's like we're coming back to you, and a lot of them actually, and if this becomes too, unless you want to just do it on consent agenda, a lot of them, I think, some of them have been paid through tax assessments. So do we want to bring those back? Because, I'm looking at it too, Vice Mayor, as you say, subjective, and you know that happened, the whole point of this that's different from the past is, it's a whole program. And so it's going to be marketed, hey, come in, we'll have certain days every quarter, because it might take some people 6 months to get up. We'll have certain days, and then after that year, there's no more leniency.
Gotcha.
But just that, if we have 142 cases come back before us, or the magistrate, that costs money too. So we're spending double money to tell people what we already know. Hey, you don't have any hard costs, the property's resolved. And some people do have certain amounts, like if it's over 5,000, if someone has hard costs over 5,000, if someone has hard costs over 10 or 25, they'll look at it like that too. But with that also is, say you do have hard costs of, and this is what we're doing. You have hard costs of $2,000. Property's off the tax roll. If we can get you back on the tax roll next year, and you can bring us back $4,000 in property taxes. You'll reperform it again. We had a gentleman who called out of the blue. He was a candidate for this job. And he said, I don't know how he got my number. He said, you know, I saw your town hall thing, and we did that up here in Georgia, and it was resoundingly successful. So I think it's about marketing and letting everyone know it's not subjective, it's objective. If you come, your paperwork's in order, you're done. You don't have to go back before the commission and you think this commissioner doesn't like you. That it's not political anymore. It is formulaic. The property's cleaned up. You don't have any hard costs. Your liens are resolved. Period. There's no more politics involved. No more, you know, I don't like this person or that person. If you turn in your paperwork, we verify it's valid, you're done.
So, in the same notion, if they meet the standard of that before it is released, what is the issue with coming back before the commission?
Time.
Well, if we're focused on time, then this program should not last a year. If we're focused on time, it should be at minimum to go through the files, organize everything, and then begin the process as soon as possible.
Yes. So
I just have an issue with a year of amnesty.
I understand.
Yeah. So if we can reduce that to maybe
no.
under six months of amnesty, and then we roll out the program, that will probably work best for me.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, I don't think I explained it well. It's not freedom from code enforcement violations. It is those in the past.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's those in the past. It's no freedom. We're gonna be tougher now.
Correct.
We're gonna be tougher now because you have
Completely
freedom.
understood.
Right, so what I'm saying is before we can even get to a point of bringing something to you guys, or anyone, even communicating what's going on, because we still, even with this 35-page report, we still don't know what's real and what's not real. We did the best that we could.
And so that's part of my apprehensive, is because I just received it today. I haven't had time to go through it. It's been sitting here on this desk.
Yes, sir.
So we should be able to do our due diligence and craft out something that is consistent and fair for all people.
Okay.
And I don't understand what the reservation is with that.
But being fair
Being
is not
consistent and
coming
being
from the
Well, I'll tell you what our reservation is, and if we can work on this. We do have a couple of people who have bought properties, just like the gentleman. They're paying interest. They want to be able to remarket their properties. They bought the properties cash. They bought the properties cash. They want to be, can we do this, if it's amenable, do a 6 months program.
So we already have something on the books.
Yes.
For that person right there.
And I understand.
Exactly. So he could be before us now.
And
then we could move forward.
But that's the issue. The current program.
Y'all gonna have to keep it down in the gallery.
The current program is 85-15.
Thank you.
If we have a questionable lien.
So the program I'm speaking of, 25% and also up to 50%. So maybe.
So a gentleman, yes, and I understand, that's not, for the way we've been running our program, people have $1 million liens on a $30,000 house. You have $1 million liens, $30,000 house, and we say, we'll give you 50%, so just pay us $500,000. We can't, that's what we're trying to avoid. Because we have made 142 properties in Fort Meade unmarketable. A town, we only have 2,500 parcels thereabouts. We have made, what is it, 5% of our properties unmarketable when they have potential. So that's what we're running into is, you say, well, come in, I think the last program that passed was 85-15. I know years ago there was a 25-50, and a couple of years ago it went to 85-15. But still, if you're talking $1.5 million, 85-15 is $400,000 on a $100,000 property. It's completely unmarketable. No one's going to come in for that because it's cheaper to pay the interest. It's cheaper to pay the interest for a year, which would kill their deal. Their deal is dead now. They're upside down in the property in Fort Meade, and I would hate to say it, but that's how a lot of properties, and I can tell you. The interesting thing about this is we started in 2005. What happened in 2007 and 2008 was the market crash. People found themselves upside down in their houses and just gave up. And now if you put investors in a position where they're upside down in their properties, they're gonna give up. No one's gonna come here and you're gonna be stuck with the non-performing properties again. Yeah, so we're gonna continue this. And I think there has to be, and I hate to use this word, but a purge. There has to be a point where we say, let's bite the bullet. Let's collect the $200,000 or $300,000 that we think we can collect, and we do. I think we can collect a couple $100,000 through this amnesty. And I will tell you this, as the interim city manager has said, in the last couple of years, we might have collected $20,000 to $30,000. Our goal with this, and we'll make it a workout to collect, to get back some of this money, because they were, some of them were initially, 15 years ago, legitimate violations. And legitimate violations should not be ignored. However, we shouldn't, we're killing the city. These, our tax roll, I think it might be worth, and Melissa, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, maybe $1.52 million. And we have $50 million in liens. We have 25 times our tax roll in liens. We will never get out of our current situation as far as financial performance if we don't free up this money.
This point, it's not all the city's fault.
No, sir.
The property owner has their liability on.
No, sir. And you're correct, but now in a lot of the cases, Commissioner, a lot of those property owners don't own the properties anymore. They've been quit claimed and cleaned up.
When you sell a property, the liens are gonna go with it.
No. People have ways. So a lot of properties have been quit claimed, which would mean somebody might have given somebody $10,000 and say, hey, you have the headache.
Well, they're supposed to research liens on all sales.
No. But when you do it out of your pocket, when you do it cash, you don't have to research anything. That's buyer beware. You take your own risk.
That's the buyer's fault.
Correct. But the buyer came in and cleaned up the property. There's a property on 9th Street under the
All I
same.
want is the property to be up to code.
Correct.
I don't want the lien money. I want the hard cost money.
Okay.
I'm allowed to eat the liens.
Okay. And then the
Money
next.
my taxpayers are out.
The next
Should
thing.
come back.
The next thing is coming before the commission.
Yes. We had, how many properties a while back several months ago, in the shadow meeting? We had.
There was 9.
9 properties. Where we stand on those?
In what meeting?
We had a shadow
Where we
meeting,
met with, legal team.
and you excused yourself on your family's property, and Commissioner Wilton recused himself on his properties in the meeting.
I will say this.
We made an
Commissioner.
offer at that time with Mr. Williams, and then it was turned down later in the meeting. The lawyers there, I believe.
If
And we were
these,
supposed to go on with the other foreclosures.
the public is aware.
The lawyers had picked it up.
The public, and I will say this, the public is aware of your current programs. They're aware of coming back before the commission, and they're not buying. If what you're doing is not working, you have to do something else.
There you go.
We have to, we are committed, because the government has to work. The government can't make rules and they go nowhere. The rules have to benefit the people. So, I will just tell you, some people will not step in this room just because it's a government building. We can take this program out to the people. The manager can say, hey, and we can go out with the list, and I know they've done it in the past. But you can't come to me with a list and I have $300,000 in liens, and you say, hey, we'll excuse your liens if you pay $45,000.
I'm for excusing the liens, period.
Correct. So it's the coming back before the commission part that won't work. They're not coming back before you. As much as you say it, and much as you write the program, they're not going to come back and it won't work.
Okay, thank you, Mr. King. Thank you. You said a whole lot. You've done a dissertation. Thank you so much. I'm of this opinion is, yes, we do currently have something on the books, and I'm of this opinion, if it were working, we wouldn't be here now. And I'm well aware of that there have, in the past, there have been breaks given to some, but not to all. There have been representatives in the city that have cut deals behind this commission's back to get money, so that, and then the liens just go away and they never come back before us. There have been properties that have been sold where we know that there have been liens, but I've never heard or seen anybody come up here and ask for forgiveness. But now there's a new house on those properties. And so I'm of this, that we've got to implement something, because what we've been doing has not worked. It's evident by the numbers. It's evident by the numbers that it has not worked. The people are not coming up asking for forgiveness because they know that they can't meet the criteria of 85-15 or 25-50 because the amount of their liens is astronomical.
That's right.
They barely have enough money to pay their light bills. So, you know, paying hard costs or soft costs, they just don't have it.
Thank you.
And I believe that if possibly this is it's not like it's a lifetime program. This is a one-time program to assist our residents who we say we care about.
Yeah, that's it.
And
Who
so,
voted for you? Right.
what I believe it will do for those who want to take advantage of the program, we will see them. But for those who do not, we'll have to deal with them accordingly. Because not everyone is going to take advantage of the program. And that's just the way that it is. But if we can get at least maybe 20% of the people whose names are on that list that have all of these liens, then I think that's getting somewhere. And then we deal with the others accordingly, because as he stated, that we'll give them this limited time to come in, to assist them case by case basis to see what we can do to get these properties back on our tax roll. But to continue the way that we have, it has proven not to be productive.
Thank you.
They come in, approach us, well,
It
forgive,
don't
I'm willing to
work.
forgive the hard costs, I mean, the lien figures, and work with them,
It
present.
don't work.
Excuse me. Let him have his
Discuss
say.
this, I'm gonna work with them on the hard costs.
Resign.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Work that out, I'm glad to.
Yes, sir.
I too am not against forgiveness, but at the same time, we just have to have a level of accountability so that we can conduct our jobs for the positions that we were voted here to do. And so that's what everything, and I will continue to be interrupted and dismissed.
You don't know what you're talking about.
All right, y'all, calm down. Calm down.
So as long as I'm not done. So as long as you're doing things in which the individuals who voted for you are fond of, you're popular. But it's time that you're trying to continue to do what I've been elected to do, now you're unpopular. Well, I would be unpopular. Because there's a certain level of accountability, even in the administration, that we must maintain so that we can prevent this kind of thing from happening again in the future. And so that's where I rest, that's where I land.
All right, I concur, and I do believe that even though should this move forward, I believe that will get us there, because there has obviously not been a standard that the city
For accountability.
Right.
for accountability for us that we have been guided by. It has been, some do it this way, sometimes we'll do it that way, other times we'll do it this way. And so from my perspective, my lens, I believe, as Mr. King stated, it's sort of a way to purge the role so we'll know what we have, who we are dealing with, what is left, and now it gives us a guide for how we are going to establish the rules of engagement moving forward. But as of right now, I think one of the issues that citizens have had with city government is the fact that there has been more than one way of doing business. And if you, and we've seen it, you've seen it, that when they did come, some got forgiven, some did not.
Right.
And some of those that got forgiven, I believe shouldn't have been forgiven. But and so to me, that's where Now, that's subjective.
Uh-huh.
That wasn't being objective.
Yeah.
Because we were not going by what we had written. And so, and I stated that this would come back to harm us. Because if we have it written, why not just stick to what's written? Even though if my mama would have came up here, it would have hurt me, but you know what? I would have told my mama, we have this written for a reason. So that I, as a commissioner, cannot show favoritism.
That's right.
So that is why we have it on the books, but that wasn't the standard that was set. It was just grayed, it was blurred, it was just not being done fairly. So we can debate this all night long,
Madam Mayor.
but that you have your opinion, I have mine.
Yes.
So what we should do is move forward.
That's it. That's it.
It's just a question. Is it wrong to require it to be changed before we roll the program out? That's all I'm saying.
Changed.
Yes, I do not agree with the city manager and or designee being responsible to carry out this task. So that's why I'm saying that there has to be a level of accountability. And when we remove ourselves from that, because remind you, in the charter, we cannot oversee a designee. We only can hold the city manager accountable. If this is then put in somebody else's hand to carry out, then at this point, there is no oversight, and then what we've been elected to do is out the window. And I rest.
Thank you. I agree with Vice Mayor Barry.
Of course.
At this juncture, we have item 2 to be considered. What say ye? Is there a motion to adopt the temporary lien amnesty program?
Madam Mayor, I move that we table this until something that is agreeable come across, and then we can roll it out at another time. That's my motion.
Can the public
We have a
ask a
motion on the
question?
floor. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion?
Can the public ask a question? No.
One moment. We have a motion on the floor and there in a second. Any further discussion? Any members of the commission?
Madam Mayor, I will remove that motion if we allow for the public to speak.
We have a motion on the floor. and a second.
Too late.
At this time. All right, that was the discussion. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, yeah.
One more. Yes.
Is or designate in the resolution? Is the city manager or designate?
I did not have it as she read it off, that's what she said.
Because we can do a strike through on or designate.
Oh, yeah.
We can do a strike through, and the city manager is directly accountable. And Vice Mayor, if it's amenable to you, as the city manager, a part of the city manager's control of this system is every month he reports to the commission in a report on consent agenda or verbal, whatever you say, every month on what, a report of the liens. And it would be like a little packet like this in your agendas.
I don't believe the approval, we need to relinquish control for the,
But Commissioner, one quickly, they have been doing that.
Already.
They have already been doing it.
The enforcement of liens and fines has been done completely arbitrary.
Yeah.
There has not been equal protection for the residents, it is done,
That's
it
right.
is done
Thank you.
just how whoever was in power wanted
They
to
have
do
been
it.
That's
doing
correct.
it without coming back to the
This program is in the interest of the city because it will quash those potential claims of not allowing for equal protection. What has been done is egregious. This cleans it up.
Thank you. Thank you. Take that.
So we can strike or designate and add a monthly report to the commission. And hard costs, because there aren't that many hard costs come before the commission, or some type of language, because we do have someone who is trying to sell a property And if they have to wait another month, it's gonna cost them another $1,000 and their margin might be 20. I don't know, we have to, you know, they're cutting into their money. And you can't do that to an investor because people want to invest in your town and then everybody's paying for everything through their electric bills. And we need to kind of sort of revitalize our property tax roll. So in any form, I mean, a lot of the hard costs you'll find are, as the manager said, just who they wanted to pick on type of thing.
Okay.
All right, with that being considered, Attorney McWhorter striking designee from the resolution, to replace that with a monthly
That can
report?
happen, we would need a motion.
Okay,
We have a motion on the floor, but we would definitely need a motion to do that.
okay, no problem.
Can I ask one question to the city attorney?
Sure.
Can we hear you? What is the difference, between a tabled item and a postponed item? There's a difference. A tabled item needs to come back, same meeting.
Or the next.
Or the next, file stays on the agenda for the next meeting.
Right, but that's not the issue that was being asked of me.
I want to proceed properly, because you need to set a date, has to be made.
No, they would change to this. This doesn't need to be tabled
I
or,
was talking about for the rest of what we discussed.
yeah.
The original motion and tabled, it should be postponed.
Yes, but Vice Mayor stated that he would be willing to amend the motion.
It was a
So
good
it was-
point, motion.
It was suggested to strike designee, and replace it with city manager, followed by, to include a monthly report. Am I correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Of, I don't know, hard calls, soft calls, or
Well, what would the report do? Would there be action to be taken on the report, or just tell us what he's doing?
It's an information item, it's a transparency information item, so that nothing that is done is done in the dark. So,
We don't have, the commission would not have control over the item.
with all due respect, Commissioner, you haven't had control even up till now, because things have come before the commission has made a decision on what the forgiveness would be, and then what the commission decided would happen was not done.
correct?
All right.
Correct. And that's still happening.
No,
No, not with the new. We got a new one now.
So,
Oh, Jesus.
Attorney
Yes.
McWhorter, thank you. As what she was asking regarding the language.
So what we would do in line 4, it already says that the city manager or designee, we would strike or designee. The manager's already there. And then we would add the language, we'll see where we would put that, but the manager will be required to provide monthly reports regarding, you could say any and all action that have been taken on the liens, which will require him to bring it back to you.
Yes,
And he'll decide on what format that would look like.
Okay, we've heard, the suggested language, for resolution 2024-37. Attorney McWhorter, would you, do us a favor, please, and reread the title with, the correct language?
The resolution of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, authorizing a code enforcement liens and fines amnesty program, providing that the city manager is authorized to execute and record a satisfaction of liens upon full payment of code enforcement fines or penalties, providing that the city manager, strike designee, that the city manager shall consider any applications for reduction or forgiveness of code enforcement fines or liens when orders imposing such fines or penalties have been recorded in public records. The city manager must provide monthly reports to the commission regarding any and all actions taken regarding liens enforcements.
Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Maitland? Okay, all right, we have the, we had the attorney reread the resolution 2024. Is there a motion on the floor?
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Still have a conflict of interest to be resolved in voting with property owners. I believe the commissioners would have a conflict of interest on voting on the amnesty program.
How so?
They have property that's,
That's the reason you don't want it.
Excuse me.
there's a purveyance of assumed, assessed, assuming that there is a conflict of interest by parties.
Keep showing your hand.
I don't see this.
The last,
I'm sorry.
What are you talking about?
there is a perceived conflict of interest
Of what?
of voting.
What? What are you talking about?
It's for everybody.
Yes.
I just have a question.
Oh, really?
Do I need to formally withdraw that first motion? Or has it been perceived that it's been done? That's all.
In terms of procedure, we would have to do that, yeah,
Okay,
go
thank
back to what he was indicating. Here, we're not, you're not voting on any particular item, any particular property under these circumstances. This is for this is for a program, a process that you're voting on, which indirectly, and I get what you're saying, indirectly may at some point affect somebody here, but it is, based on what you're voting here, is a process.
That's all.
Thank you.
You showed your hand too early.
We can't hear
You have to speak up.
I talked to the attorney. That's good.
No,
There will be a commission of ethics is paid to investigate. They'll give their opinion. That's all I'm waiting for. Thank
Like talking uptown.
Madam Mayor, I have a question. How would you go about picking the names who are on the list? You said, are they gonna have to come to you, is that what you're saying?
I hope that we can go to them. I'd like us to be proactive into getting homeowners in compliance, so.
How would you go about doing that?
Well, we can do it with mail, we can do it calls, we can knock on their doors, we can put flyers in the electric bills, social media, marketing,
Facebook.
news. I mean, I think this is newsworthy. I think news will come and get the word out. So there's many different avenues to get this information out to the public. And if it was an active, and I'm here, it's something that we're going to be going after. We're going to be going after these homeowners to get them back in compliance, get these properties back on the tax rolls, get a more beautiful city. This is a vote for a more beautiful, more prosperous.
Make Fort Meade proud.
And I do believe that, and I would hope that each commissioner here, I think we all know that none of us can directly benefit from any type of program of this type. And maybe that was done before, but we all know, we all know what the violations are ethically because we've taken the oath. So, I don't think we have to, that goes without saying, that goes without saying. So, Vice Mayor Barron, with your previous motion, where are we?
City Attorney, I would like to withdraw the initial motion. All right, and Madam Mayor,
Yes,
I
sir.
move that we implement the amnesty program under the new language as stated by the City Attorney McWhorter.
Thank you.
We have a motion to enact temporary lien amnesty program with the redefined language as stated. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign.
Aye.
We knew.
Motion carries 3-2. Moving on to item 3. Okay, we're gonna recess for 5 minutes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It affects everything.
All right, we are back in session.
Time for that.
And due to time constraints, we're going to jump in our agenda down to new business. M1, we're gonna have our auditors come in and do their fiscal year ended report. This morning, oh Lord, this evening. All right, come on in. Hi.
You all have received the PowerPoint slides. So, I'm Barbara Boyd, I'm a partner with Purvis Grain Company. I've been doing the audit in charge of the audit for about 6 or 7 years now. With me today is Pierce Hogan, he's the manager on the engagement, and he's been, he does all the legwork, all the hard work, so he's been with the city doing this audit for about 2-3 years now. So. And we're here to present the results of the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023 audit. Both the city and the CRA are being presented tonight. So, here you have also received the bound reports. Yes, should look something like this. I most likely won't open these today, so we'll just go through the PowerPoint. But the PowerPoint will summarize the results of our reports that are included in there. All right, so first item on the PowerPoint slides is the auditor's reports for the city. So the city received an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is a clean opinion. What that means is that you can rely on the information that's included in your financial statements based on the evidence that we have gathered and tested. We concluded that the financial statements are free of any material errors. And that is reasonable assurance. We as auditors don't look at 100% of your transactions, so we provide reasonable assurance that they're free of errors. The next item on there is the auditor's opinion on the state single audit compliance and internal controls. So you received, anytime you receive over $750,000 of either state or federal grants, we're required to do a single audit. And this year you received both. but we'll talk about the federal side in a minute. The state side, you had over 700, you had about $900,000 of grants there that were mostly SRF grant and the loan counts as assistance as well. So we do a deeper dive into the program and the projects. We look at compliance with the grant agreement and the loan agreement, and we look at internal controls over compliance. So you received an unmodified opinion on compliance, which is good. Unmodified means that we didn't have any issues. And then there were no reportable internal control deficiencies over compliance noted for the state single audit. So those are good results. The next report that's on the financial statements for the city is the internal control, compliance, and other matters that's required to be reported under government auditing standards. Most of you have heard me say before that as part of any audit, we review your internal controls as part of our risk assessment. It helps us determine where we're going to focus our resources. And as part of that process, if we identified any control deficiencies that we consider to be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, we do include them in the report. So this year we did have a few to report, so we'll go through them. They are in more detail in the financial statements, so at any point if you want to talk about those further, we can always open up the book and talk about them a little bit more. But item 2023-01, management override of procurement process. We considered that to be a significant deficiency and a material non-compliance. So that had to do with the fire truck that was purchased prior to, or that it was encumbered prior to coming to the commission for approval. So that was not within the budget, and any government is required to abide by the budget. So that's why that's considered a significant deficiency. It also violated your purchasing process policy.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is that noted in the hardback book?
Yeah. So.
That the reason is the purchase of the fire truck?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can. The next item is the bank reconciliations 2023-02, and that is considered a material weakness. So actually this has been a pretty common finding across a lot of my clients this year because either due to turnover or just shortage of staff. That seems to be the thing, it should be the last thing to fall behind, but it seems to be the thing that falls behind. And bank reconciliations are really a key control in a lot of your processes. They help to detect if there's any issues in revenues or payables or payroll, so that's really one key control that should be done. We recommend at least monthly bank reconciliation and that it be reviewed and approved on a timely basis as well. So this year we noted that I think the April report or April bank reconciliation that we reviewed wasn't reviewed by management until November of that year. So it was 7 months late in being reviewed and approved, and it had errors within the reconciliation as well.
Can you say that again just so that I can fully hear you? Please, thank you.
So the April bank reconciliation, we noted the review and approval didn't occur until November of that year. So April 23 wasn't reviewed and approved until November of 23. And so, and it included some errors within the bank reconciliation as well.
Oh, okay.
And then item 2023-03, the manual adjusting entries, we consider to be a significant deficiency, and this is just a segregation of duties. Adjusting entries is one of the ways that management can override internal controls, and so it's really important to have a secondary review of those journal entries. And out of the 25 that we tested, we noted 2 of them was reviewed by the same person, were reviewed by the same person that prepared the entry.
Hold on, what? Can she repeat it?
Go ahead.
Any questions questions so far on the internal controls? Any more questions? The next report that's included in there is the compliance with Florida Statute 218-415. That is the local government investment statute. And the city, we noted that the city complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements for local government investments, so that is a clean report. The federal single audit, the next item on here, is the compliance with U.S. Treasury Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Program. Those are your ARPA funds. And ARPA that has a special stipulation that if that is the only program that's causing you to go over the $750,000, then you can have done like an alternative examination rather than a full-blown federal single audit. And so the city elected to have that alternative examination done. So what you're seeing now is an examination report that was simplified in the compliance requirements that were required to be tested. So the two compliance requirements that we tested were that the activities that were that the ARPA funds were used for were allowed, and that it's allowable cost and cost principles, meaning that there weren't any liquor or things that are other items that are not unallowed that the ARPA funds were being used for. So no issues there. That was a clean report as well. And then finally, there's a management letter that's in accordance with Chapter 10550 Rules of the Auditor General. So the two items that I will highlight in the management letter are one, the follow-up of the corrective action, and then two, any new items that we had. So last year we had 3 recommendations included in the management letter, and we're required to follow up on those. 2 of those were repeated this year. If you have an item, a finding be repeated 3 times, it then goes to the Joint Legislative Action Committee. And you have to generally write a letter to them explaining why it hasn't been corrected yet. So this is the second year for the bank reconciliation process, which was last year in the management letter because it was a little bit different. This year it was added on because of the lateness of the review of the bank reconciliation, so it was elevated to a material weakness. Last year it was in the management letter. And the other item that was repeated was 2023-05. The excess expenditures over budget appropriation, so we'll talk about that one. The recommendations for improvement of financial management in this year's management letter are 2 items. One is 2023-04 on internal service charges. And this year, the reason we have this on there is that your methodology for allocating the internal service charges changed significantly from the way it has been done in the past. Excuse me, losing my voice. I have some of it there, thank you. So it changed significantly from, and because of the turnover, we weren't able to receive kind of an explanation of how that methodology was determined. It was done according to budget though, so the charges that were allocated internally agreed to the budget, so that had come at some point before the commission to be approved. So what we're recommending is just that there be an allocation that's based on actual cost. One of the other things that happened is that the costs that were allocated exceeded the actual cost. So you had the finance department and the general fund had negative $50,000 of expenses because it had been over allocated to other funds or functions. So we're just recommending that you have an actual cost allocation and use that consistently year over year to allocate your internal service charges, just to make sure that each fund is really showing expenses for what they're truly incurring in expenses. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just flabbergasted about the information that you're sharing. My brain is, I'm hearing you and processing, and just the outrage that was just expressed about like taxpayers' money. And now what is being revealed from previous administrations that some commissioners sat here and supported, to hear this mismanagement of funds is astounding to me. But I'll ask my questions at the end. I'm sorry, madam.
That's right.
I will add, the internal service charges are all the same charges, so this isn't, it's just really how it's being allocated between
Understood.
one fund and another. 2023-05 excess expenditures over budget appropriations. So your policy states that any changes within a fund, so the city manager has the ability to change within a department. Anything outside of that has to come before city commission. At the end of the year, there were a few departments that exceeded the budget. Most of them minor. I think there was one that was maybe $20,000 or so. Okay, so that's it for the auditor's reports for the city. The next page has the auditor's reports for the CRA, which is a lot simpler. The auditor's opinion on the financial statements is still an unmodified or a clean opinion. The bank reconciliation process is the same thing that was in the city's financial statements, and that's because the cash is pooled, so the same process applies to both the city and the CRA. Compliance with Florida Statute 218, the investment of public funds, again, same policy, and so that was clean. We concluded that the CRA was in compliance. The CRA has one more examination with Florida Statute 163, 387, 6, and 7, the redevelopment trust fund. So that's when the new statute was created, we're required to issue an when the statute was updated, I should say, it required us to issue an examination report on the CRA's compliance with this statute. And we reviewed that and determined, concluded that the CRA complied in all material respects with that statute. And then there's a management letter for the CRA as well, and we had, there were no prior or current year findings or recommendations, and no other recommendations within that letter for the CRA.
Yes, the material weakness for internal control compliance, that's also noted in the hard book.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's it.
Okay. All right, the next, so those two slides that I went through, those were all in your bound financial statements. All those reports were in your bound financial statements. The next page I'm going to go through is a separate letter that you received called Required Communications with Those Charged with Governance. And that letter includes information that helps you assess the results of the audit that may not be readily apparent from just reviewing the financial statements themselves. So there are things like, for example, the qualitative aspects of accounting practices, any changes in accounting policies, what significant estimates are included in your financial statements, and then any significant no disclosures. There was one new accounting policy this year, was the adoption of GASB 96 on SVITAs, but subscription-based IT arrangements. It really didn't have a significant impact on your financial statements, but it does take a little time to put all that together and gather all the contracts. And significant estimates were unbilled that are included in your financial statements. So this is where management may have some input over how to calculate those estimates. So not everything in your financial statements is based on historical fact. So your unbilled revenue, allowance for doubtful accounts, accumulated depreciation, you can see them here. We reviewed the inputs for all those estimates and determined that they were consistent and reasonable, consistent with prior year and reasonable. The note disclosures that we highlight are the commitments and contingencies note, note 16, which is contains information about your agreement with FMPA, and more specifically the CROT agreement that requires you to buy a certain amount of power from FMPA. The note 17, joint venture, this is your joint venture with Popewater Regional Cooperative. And then the sale of City Mobile Home Park is new this year, so that's in note 6 to your financial statements. And one thing I do want to point out about that is how it was accounted for, because you did have a significant sale, right? It was $4 million or close to it, I believe. Only a portion of that was recognized as revenue this year, and it was the portion that you received as a down payment. The accounting standards, because of the way that the sale was structured, where you're not receiving a principal payments throughout the next 5 years, you're only receiving a balloon payment at the end of 5 years. That balloon payment will get recorded as revenue when it's received. So you're not recording the revenue for the full amount. There is a receivable and a deferred revenue, I think, on your financial statements. This letter also includes any difficulties that we encountered in performing the audit or any issues we might have had with management. We didn't have any issues with management, but the audit, because of turnover, was delayed a little bit. So it was postponed, it's just why we're here. In June, we typically would like to be here a little bit earlier. We had no material audit adjustments. Mike B, as I'll call him, because nobody can pronounce his last name. He does a great job closing the books for you all, so we generally don't have any significant audit adjustments. So we had no uncorrected errors for the city or the CRA either. All right. If you're up for it, a few financial highlights. So looking at the general fund, so you can see that your revenues for the year are down $336,000 this year. A lot of that is in the taxes, but those are utility taxes that are down because of the way that you do your it's pretty technical, but there's a non-taxable portion to your utility taxes, and it's delayed by a year, the way that you calculate it. So that's kind of going back into last year's increase in fuel costs. It's causing a decrease this year, and you'll see that go back up next year. Your other revenues are down as well, about $270,000. This has to do with some sale of properties that you had last year, some sale of surplus land last year. So that was not a recurring revenue last year. Your intergovernmental shows is up $82,000, but I do want to point out here that includes a $200,000 grant from the county for the equestrian center, which we'll see the expense in a minute. There is a decrease in your state shared revenue and your half-cent sales tax of about $100,000.
Wow.
Your expenditures are up almost $800,000. Good news with that is that most of those are non-recurring expenses that we're seeing. So you had disaster, I'll call that non-recurring, although
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. Some disaster expenditures that were $250,000. The equestrian center was $270,000, and then the payoff of the of a line of credit. So that's why your debt service is up $300,000. So with if you're looking at the 2023 column, your net transfers in were about $900,000, and that resulted at the end of the year in a net change in fund balance of almost $40,000 decrease. And if you look to the right to how you ended the year, so what we just talked about was your operations for the year, how you ended the year. You can see your assets are down $960,000, so that pretty much corresponds to your decrease in fund balance for the year. And if you look at the total fund balance column for 2023, you're at $1.5 million, which again is the $940,000 less than last year, and most of that is in the unassigned category. So looking at unassigned and unassigned fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures, which is one of the measures that the Government Finance Officers Association generally recommends that number be about 2 to 3 months, or 17 to 25%. Yours is at 19%. It is a significant decrease from last year, but again, that's because of some mostly non-recurring expenditures that occurred. Moving on to the enterprise funds. Your total revenues are down about $370,000, while your expenses are relatively flat. The decrease in revenues is driven primarily by the decrease in power costs from prior year. Those power costs, are passed through directly to customers. So whenever you see an increase or decrease in those power costs, you'll see a similar increase or decrease in your revenues. Your water and sewer revenues are up significantly. You did have some rate increases this year, so that's what's driving those revenues up. And your water and sewer expenses are up primarily because of that change in allocation of the internal service charges that we talked about. And then you see your mobile home park activity was a little bit higher this year, but that includes mostly a full year's of activity because that sale of the mobile home park didn't occur until September, I believe. So you can see the mobile home park revenue is down in the net non-operating revenue or expense, which is $887,000 for 2023. That's where the mobile home park revenues are included. You also had capital grants this year of $940,000. Those are your SRF loans. Your transfers in of $870,000. Those are ARPA funds that are being transferred to water and sewer for projects. And then your transfers out of $790,000. That was a decrease from $1 million last year. So that's the electric fund that's transferring less money over to the general fund. So how you ended the year then in 2023, if we look at your net position, your net investment in capital assets is $7.5 million. That was an increase of $1.2 million. And so that's directly being driven by your capital grants and your ARPA transfers in that are being reinvested in capital assets. So that's increasing that net investment in capital assets account. Your unrestricted is up $660,000 up as well, and that's because of the mobile home park sale. And then finally the CRA, which is very little activity. The main thing to point out here is the increase in taxes. You had a $115,000 increase in CRA revenue. That was primarily driven by the increase in value in that area. You do still have $1 million of loan proceeds that are restricted for that community center complex currently. That concludes my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
So the first is, I am also processing the information. Thank you for doing an amazing job in breaking it down. And I know there are further details inside of the book. This is more just for my understanding. I know in past meetings, if not the last, the one before, there was mention of separate books or two separate books. Because what I'm trying to understand is all the information presented like last year and years prior is that we were doing great and the books were stellar and the city was doing great financially. And so it's being told that information and then what you share here in your report doesn't align. And so I think I'm trying to understand when I'm looking at these areas of deficiency, significant deficiencies, material, it's how did we get here? I think I'm better trying to understand, and you are our auditors. So if you could break it down, maybe even in layman's term, yes.
Yeah, I think what we typically see is that when there is turnover within a finance department, there's findings. And that's just because things start falling by the wayside. A lot of these adjustments, so the management override of procurement process and how a fire truck was purchased, I'm not sure I have an answer for that one.
You got it.
It just happened this year though, so it's not something that we would have been able to identify or report to you in a prior year because it occurred during fiscal year 23. So that's why it's being reported here. Again, the bank reconciliation process, it's something new that happened this year. I think that one was primarily due to staff turnover in the department. And then the manual adjusting entries, again, that's something we test every year, and this is the first year that we had something that wasn't reviewed, or a couple in the sample that weren't reviewed properly. So I say the first year, I mean, we had 3 recommendations last year, they just didn't rise to the level of a significant deficiency or material weakness. We've had findings in the past as well. So it's not like the city has always gotten a stellar report financially. Financially, you've done well. I mean, your financial statements or financial position is healthy. It did have a significant decrease this year, but it's not something that concerns me as far as, you know, if you continue to have decreases like that in your fund balance, that would be concerning, and that's a trend that Mike does look at. So he may tell you something different, but as far as having a separate set of books, I think there might be just some miscommunication. Mike can probably speak to that more. I think the way that he closes the books and then communicates that to the city, you know, may just.
You didn't find a set of books.
I'm sorry?
You didn't find another?
No, we did not find another set of books. So he might be able to explain that more.
Okay. All right, any additional questions? For Barbara? No additional questions? Do we need to make a motion to adopt this report? So can we have a
I
motion?
move that we receive the report for audit results fiscal year ended September 30, 2023.
I'll second.
From Purvis Gray.
There's been a proper motion and second. Any further discussion? No further discussion? All in favor of adopting the auditor's report for September 30th, 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. All right.
Have a safe
Appreciate you. We're gonna have Mr. B come in. Mr. B.
He been waiting a long time.
Mr. B, come on in. State your name for the record so everybody here can hear.
For the record, my name is Mike B. Mike Brynjolfsson.
Brynjolfsson, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, it's on the financial consultant for the city, and as the auditors just said, I help the city get ready for the audit, walk with the city through the audit, and I'm here tonight to throw them out if we have to, so. But anyway, I'll take any questions. Do you have questions for me over the audit? Or, I didn't have a formal presentation, but I can, you guys let me know.
Well, I would like to hear which of the balances, the funds that we have that we could possibly raise a bit, adjust a bit to bring in additional revenue.
Okay.
But also to keep us in that area where we're not at the highest in the county, but
right,
somewhere in that middle.
Well, I'll tell you, that's a good question, because I do have an answer for you. And I see you have my trending booklet that I just brought today. You know, our audit just wrapped up, and everything got overnighted here, I think Monday, and so it's all moving pretty quick at this point. So I know you haven't had a chance to look at it, and there's a lot of data in there. But I'll give you the big picture, and the auditors kind of pointed it out, is over the years, you have been in a good financial position, and not only good, but you've been increasing, both in the general fund and in your enterprise funds. This year, meaning 2023, everything kind of changed. You know, the general fund did drop way down near that 2-month level. So, you know, the auditors were speaking of, you gotta have a reserve, and that's not a targeted reserve, that's the floor. That's like the ground when you're flying an airplane, you know, you don't wanna go near the floor, you wanna fly at about 25%, not at 17%, you know. And so the general fund has deteriorated, and I think I spoke to that briefly at the last meeting, that I thought it would, and it does show that it did. And, you know, budgetary controls and things like that play into that, you know. If you budget a surplus but don't monitor the budget and you end up having over expenditures, it's going to deteriorate financial condition. Like the auditors said, and I agree with a lot of it is due to one-time items, but it doesn't really matter. It does going forward, but the fact is at 9/30/2023, 9 months ago, you know, we were in, the general fund had deteriorated. Now when you look at the enterprise funds, when you look at this financial health, meaning are there adequate reserves, you know, in the enterprise funds at 9/30, yes, there is. But if you look at the main enterprise funds, the electric fund, the water and the sewer funds, they're over years, and I have a graph in that booklet, shows the profit margin decreasing every year. So while revenue is going up as rates increase, it's not keeping up with expenses. To the point where if you look at it, and you got the training book, and I'll point out it's on page 7. If you look at that book, you can see the enterprise fund profit margin. The blue line is your revenue, green line is your expense, and that gap between it is your profit in those funds. And you can see how that gap is shrunk to the point where in 2023, they're almost even. The enterprise funds are supposed to generate positive cash flow, pay principal, interest on debt, and make a transfer to the governmental funds, because they don't typically recover all their costs through user fees like the enterprise funds do. And I'll give you a canary in a coal mine moment when I see a commission approve a loan from the general fund to the enterprise fund. To me, that's a red flag. That means something's wrong. And, I did see that here earlier in the year, and it was before the audit was completed. So there's some headwinds in the enterprise funds. When you want to talk about something that you could do, the general fund needs to be shored up on its fund balance, and on the enterprise funds, all three of those funds need, I think, a rate study, possibly. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head when the last one was done. But as you can see, that they're not covering the cost. And we're just catching it this year. You haven't deteriorated significantly in your enterprise funds. I'll just give you that. When I say that, I have a graph to back that up, and you can kind of see your level of reserves on page 14. Again, we're looking at percentages of your annual revenue you have in reserves, because we're not looking at dollars here, even though this is based on dollars. The value of the dollar changes every day. As you bill more, you need to build more reserves. As the value of the dollar goes down, you got to have more dollars to have the same level of reserves. That's why we look at a percentage rather than a dollar amount. Like Dave Ramsey, he doesn't look at how many dollars you need, he looks at how many months you need in reserves. That's what we're doing here. And you can see you have 32%, or you have, 4 months of reserves in your enterprise fund. And you see that's relatively flat. And that's true, but if the cash flow situation isn't remedied there, that gap, that will start to go down. So I'm just giving you the heads up now, if that's something we can do. But I'm not saying that the city's not in poor financial condition right now. I mean, as you can see in these couple of graphs I've shown you, but there are some things that concern me. Last chart I'll look at on here is the one that really says, well, on page 22. This is your unrestricted cash balances. And you can see it's gone down since 2020. So that's another concern, that the unrestricted money you have, you have two types. You have restricted money, which are going to be like impact fees, CRA money, things like that. Then you're going to have your unrestricted money, which the commission has decision over where to spend it. And that pool has declined, and you can see it here over time. So you can see some of the warning trends, and that would be just to bear in mind my suggestion, to shore up the general fund and then work on the profitability in the enterprise funds. And once that's done, everything will work itself out.
Question for you. You mentioned impact fees. How much does the city, is that notated here?
Let's see, it's not in here. You do not have, let me see if I can't find that for you quickly. It is not in the in that presentation, because in that presentation we're really focusing on the financial condition, and that's really important to look at the unrestricted resources, because when you start combining them all, it gets kind of it can muddy the waters a little bit. So I'm looking here, it's on, you don't have it in front of you, well, it's in your audited financial statements on page 16, but you have about $380,000 of water and sewer impact fees that unspent as of year. And so it's, you have $2.2 million of unrestricted cash in your enterprise funds, $383,000 of impact fees. So it's not a huge number. You go to somewhere like in Davenport, they have like $25 million in unspent impact fees just because of the level of growth. And you haven't quite had that here, so it's relatively low.
We're overall in pretty sound shape.
I'm sorry?
We're overall in pretty sound shape.
You are. Well, you were, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Last year, because if you really look back, if we just take 2023 out, for 5 years in a row, the general fund has increased its reserves.
When I say
5 years.
sound shape, we do need impact studies.
Yes, I think the general fund is very low on its reserves. It's right at that GFOA recommended minimum.
We haven't done these,
And the thing, this was 9 months ago. This was just 9 months ago. So if the same activity happens this year that happened last year, I know it didn't because there were some one-time expenses last year, but think about that. We're 9 months through the next year already, and we're talking about if that happened again, you'd be out of money right now.
we just had hurricane season.
Yeah, so I hope I was clear on that. You know, it's not ringing the bell saying that we're in an emergency on a red light going on, but I do want to warn you because I can see, I do this all the time, I can kind of see where we're going. I'd rather not go there.
Last time you heard about long ago, everybody kind of got bored with you.
So, can I answer any more questions?
Did you find the second, can you explain the second set of books?
Yes, I can. What happens is, the city operates during the year, and they run their books and keep it up to date and do those bank recs and monthly entries and the like. And at the end of the year, we have to prepare for the audit, meaning we have to do a bunch of adjustments. And it's not to say there's errors, you report differently in the audited financial statements than your internal numbers. And so what management does is they close the books up to the point they can give it to me. They give me the numbers and they freeze the city books. The city books don't change, they give it to me, and I make some of the more technical adjustments at the end of the year. So that's where the second set of books is where I take over from the city. Now,
Nothing nefarious about it.
no, it's not. It's not nefarious. It's just, and I understand that the issue here is that if I hold on to those numbers before giving my adjustments to the city is operating off books that aren't up to date. I completely understand that. It's just how we've done it in the past, and we've waited until the audit's done, any audit adjustments are in, then at that point I send the adjustments to the city. So there's a lag in there. It could be 2 or 3 months where the city books aren't up to date. You know, they freeze there, and I start making adjustments on my end. And so we're gonna change that. I completely see the problem involved there. And every city I work with is different. Some, I send them adjustments every time I see one. Others, you just accumulate and make them. It's just how organically it's taking place. So that's the 2 set of books. And then once I send my adjustments to the city, they post them, all of a sudden we're back to 1 set of books. Is the way it works. That makes sense? Yeah, when I hear, 2 sets of books, it sounds like something off of Breaking Bad or something like that. No, it wasn't that. It was, we just have a timing difference when the city's books aren't up to date.
If the city does not make the adjusting entries that you recommend, then the operating books don't align with your adjustments.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, and have you witnessed those behaviors?
No, I haven't, because at the end of the audit, I always go in, once the adjustments are posted, I go in remote into the city and make sure that all of my adjustments got communicated properly and posted, and the city books are in sync with the audit.
Okay, so by the time the audit's done, the books are reconciled together, the 2 sets. But if there's a big event earlier in the year, it might not be recognized in our books until you get a hold of it till the audit period. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Let's say, for instance, the mobile home park. Those numbers changed significantly from when I got them. I got them and we booked them one way. We worked with the auditors, like Dave talked about. We did a partial recognition of the gain. Some of that got moved out, so there were a lot of moving pieces in the city books for the mobile home park. Now, cash didn't change, of course, cash was cash, but it was the recognition of the gain which changed a lot. So that's one thing that was, if you were to look in your books at how much did we make off of the gain, you would be saying something that didn't agree to the audit until those adjustments were posted. So we'll make a point to keep them up to sync, because once it was brought up to me, I clearly saw the problem, especially when administration had turned over and there was some, I'd say there was a lot of things happened last year, a lot of moving parts to 2023. So in trying to figure that out without, breadcrumbs and a roadmap, it was difficult, especially when, I had the adjusted books in my office, basically. I mean, I didn't have a book, it was a computer.
A question for you, knowing that, you may or may not have an opinion or information. Is it common for a city to self-finance a real estate deal?
Actually, it's pretty rare.
Okay.
In most real estate deals, you know, where you're selling it as you did, it's relatively rare. You know, we've experienced it twice since I've been working with Fort Meade. It's the natural gas utility and now the mobile home park. But we typically do not have local governments. And that's all I do, by the way. I don't do
That's why I
taxes or bookkeeping or anything. All I do is assist local governments with accounting and auditing matters. But you rarely see it.
Okay.
In your opinion, is the rate on the note that the city is holding market rate?
Well, isn't that a good question? I would say not. Yeah, what was it in refresh me, 5?
4.75, non-recourse, no income verification.
Yeah, no. No, I mean, I would like to have that rate. No, so I don't think that is. Well, you know, after tonight, if you look through my training book and have questions, just let me know. You can call me, you have my number, I'll come back, we can go over this. Love talking about the finances, so I would love to do that. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Okay. Well,
Thank you, Mr. B.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. B.
Thank you, Mr. All right. Okay, thank you so much. Now we're gonna jump back up, excuse me, to item I3. Item I3. Resolution 2024-47. Just a moment. She's gonna read the title.
A resolution of the city of Fort Meade, Florida, eliminating library fines at the Fort Meade Public Library, creating the Fort Meade is Fine Free program to promote awareness of the changes at the library and encourage usage and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
I hope y'all are doing well on
We
this
are.
Tuesday evening. Before I start my presentation, I would like to take a moment to thank Mr. Burke for working with me and collaborating with me to prepare this proposal. His input was very valuable and I appreciate it. Thank you. So I'm going to say thank you. As you read, I am here to request the elimination of overdue fines at the Fort Meade Public Library. Since our opening in 1976, we have charged patrons overdue fines for late items. However, many libraries across Polk County and the nation have embraced a new initiative, going fine-free. The purpose behind the change is to make the library more accessible to everyone in Fort Meade and surrounding communities. By eliminating overdue fines, this will lead to the increase of usage in our services. Additionally, delinquent library users will more likely return late items. Many studies have showed that, along with other Polk County libraries. I know in Mulberry, when I was over there, we started fine-free, and we had a significant number of patrons return items, mainly because they were embarrassed of the fines, so once they were moved, they brought them back. Many library users are unable to utilize our borrowing services due to having a large number of overdue fines and/or blocked accounts. This limits those library users to only browsing and not checking out our items, thus impacting our statistics that determine our state aid and funding formula. As of mid-April, the library has a total of 4,908 registered library card users. Of those, 4.5% or 220 library card holders are unable to check out materials because they have too many overdue fines. Accrued fine items of $10 or more causes a patron's account to become blocked. I would like to point out that over the course of 12 months, from May 2023 to April 2024, the library deposited $7,543.50. Over the course of those 12 months, only 5.6% or $415 was attributed to those overdue fines. While a majority of the money collected is from clerical or hotspot usage fees, so there would be a very minimal fiscal impact. I know one of the main concerns when approaching this proposal is ensuring that materials are returned in a timely manner. To ensure this, we'll be implementing the following: sending upcoming due date reminders and overdue reminders via text, email, or phone call based on the patron's profile preference. Continue printing out due date slips when patrons check out materials, along with reminding them verbally at checkout. Sending overdue reminders at 7 days and 21 days overdue via mail, and assumed lost reminders at 30 days overdue via mail. Additionally, if materials are kept by a patron over 30 days past the due date, these items are assumed lost and the patron's library record will be billed the cost of replacement. This will cause the patron's library card to be blocked, therefore losing library privileges and services until the materials are returned or paid for. To prepare for the transition, if approved, I will be implementing the following at the library. We will provide notice to library users at least 2 months in advance via door signs, social media, and library webpage. Additionally, we'll be training my staff on the new policy and updating the library software by September 1st. Develop, update, implement the reminder system for due dates and overdue items by September 15th. Create guidelines to address potential policy abuse, such as setting thresholds for suspending privileges and charging late fees in extreme cases by September 15th. And lastly, assess the impact of the fine-free policy over time by tracking changes in circulation, patron registration, and customer satisfaction with quarterly reports to the commission. In conclusion, eliminating overdue fines will remove barriers to access, increase library usage, and improve our relationship with the community. The minimal fiscal impact of this change is outweighed by the potential benefits to the library and its patrons. I would like to strongly recommend that the City Commission approve the proposal to eliminate overdue fines effective October 1st.
Thank you, Kylie. Any questions for her? I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we eliminate the library fines.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye of adopting resolution 2024, amending library fine policy. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you so much, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item I4.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, preliminarily adopting revised fire assessment fees, providing for findings, providing for definitions, providing for the imposition and computation of fire assessment fees, providing for legislative determinations of special benefit and fair apportionment, providing for the transition to a hybrid fire department, providing for notice by publication, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, providing for a public hearing, directing the provision of notice by mail to affected property owners, and providing an effective date.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple months ago, Anser was here. Anser Advisory was here, and they presented a recommendation on a revised fire assessment fee. To move forward on their recommendation, we have to pass a resolution adopting the revised fire assessments, and then it will be included in the preliminary trim in July.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion on item 4? No discussion. I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution R24-53, preliminarily adopting the revised fire assessment fees.
There's a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of adopting resolution 24-53 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. All right, moving along to item K, public hearings. Item 1. Second reading of ordinance 24-09. Is that the right one? No, it's not. repeal of ordinance 2023-24. K1.
2409. That was right.
It is 24. Let the record reflect, we're gonna read ordinance 2024-09, second reading. All right.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, repealing ordinance number 2023-24 that created a trust fund for the deposit of any proceeds received by the city from the sale of the city mobile park, and created section 2-27 of the city code to create the trust fund and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we'll open it up for public hearing. If anyone would like to have any comments on this ordinance, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing there is none, any discussion by the panel of the commission?
None.
None? I entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-09.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
I just, with this particular item, I missed the last reading and I don't have enough information to make a decision on that. So if we could just.
Would you mind if this city manager, interim city manager, expound on what this ordinance is? Please.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. With the overspending that we discovered earlier this year, transferring funds to the ARPA fund, and then subsequently transferring the loan money for the electric fund, our general fund balance has dropped below the recommended levels. We heard just CPA Mike B explain that we need 2 months of reserves. We are materially below that number, and I think this, what do we have here for the fund balance? 702,000, when we should be, much higher than $1 million. So what we're doing is we are taking the CD, which is restricted money. We're not spending it. We're just changing its classification from restricted funds to unrestricted funds. And that's it. And so that is so that we can increase our unrestricted fund balance that's been recommended by our experts.
So this has nothing to do with purchasing of a fire truck?
Well,
Yes, it does.
it does, in that when the fire truck is ready, which is gonna be on the 19th or 20th of this month, we have to pay for that apparatus up front. And we have to have a funding source that pays for that apparatus up front. We can't just say, it's gonna be reimbursed, so it's okay. We have to have the funds up front to pay for it. As it is right now, we do not have the funds in our general fund to pay for the apparatus.
Now, we're getting $1 million, right? Once we pay for it and submit it.
No, sir. We were awarded a $1 million appropriation for this year. And it was for the purchase of 2 fire trucks.
Okay.
Okay, we purchased those fire trucks early because it had to be in this fiscal year. We purchased those fire trucks last fiscal year, so we could not use that $1 million for these 2 fire trucks. But the state has said we can use it for the 3rd truck. But the 3rd truck doesn't cost $1 million. The third truck costs about $650,000, plus we added equipment to it. So that allocation can go for the truck plus the equipment that we purchased. We're going to lose about, not lose, but we're not going to be able to spend about $250,000 of that allocation. So there's money that we're leaving on the table because we paid for the 2 trucks early last year. But you're correct, it was $1 million allocation. We just don't get to use the full $1 million.
Up to $1 million.
Correct, it's up to $1 million, and we have not spent it, so we don't get to get all the $1 million.
We'll get that some back.
Correct, we will get reimbursed for the fire truck.
But not $1 million. All right, any further questions or discussion?
So in specking the truck out, we could not spec it up to $1 million?
Try as the chief might, there's only so many upgrades that can be put on that vehicle. So, he tried.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of adopting ordinance 2024-09, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion carries 4-1. 4-1. All right, item K2. Ordinance 2024-06.
An ordinance of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, amending portions of Chapter 26, Article 5, Part C of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, entitled Planning and Zoning Board, amending Section 26-141, entitled Organization, to amend the manner in which planning and zoning board members are appointed and the term of their service, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open the floor up for public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak on this item, please step forward to the podium, give your name and address for the record. Seeing we have none, we'll close the public forum.
I'm confused, what we supposed to speak on?
You're coming up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, state your name.
850 Southeast Pine. I think in the last meeting, we talked about this. I think it was something about assigning 2 employees to the mayor and the vice mayor. Is that what we're talking about? And 1 to each commissioner? Is that what we talked about?
Yes, ma'am, that's what we
Currently,
talked
the mayor assigns all 4 or assigns all employees.
All
So-
members.
All
of the
members
board.
of the board.
Oh.
So if we don't vote to change that, then it remains the same?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. It remains the same.
Thank you.
Yeah, we ain't got nothing to say.
Will there be anyone else at this time? Public forum? All right, we'll close the public forum. Any further comment from any members of the commission on this ordinance 2024-06?
Yeah, can we have an explanation as to how this works?
Yes.
The Florida Division of Emergency Management reached out to our office and they had done a review of our floodplain ordinances. They sent over recommended changes.
Oh, no.
K2.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. The P and Z, we're still on P and Z.
Yes.
I was prepping, I'm so sorry. So the way this works is that members will have a 1-year term. The mayor, the vice mayor, and the mayor and the vice mayor will have 2 appointments, and each commissioner will have a single appointment. The appointments will follow the commissioner's tenure. So you can renew the appointee, or you can change it out every year. So this is something that will come before the commission annually, so you'll know who your members are.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, if none, we'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 2024-06, amending members of the Planning and Zoning Board.
We have a proper motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any further discussion?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So will this go concurrent at the first meeting in January? Because that's usually whenever an incoming commissioner will be seated. When would this start, in other words?
I'm not sure, that's a legal question on when the new board could be appointed.
Okay. Do we have an answer for that?
Yeah, I would have to research that, I honestly don't know. All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Question,
Yes,
Madam
sir.
Mayor. So that actually is very important, and I don't know when that answer can be provided, if it's in the next commission meeting, or, because it was my understanding that the current board, right, could it be immediately? That's what I'm seeking to understand. Could this take place effective immediately?
All right, yeah, I'm not certain if it could, because even if this passes tonight, I haven't appointed anybody or elected anybody.
The way it's written right now is tied to tied to the term of the commissioners, right?
The way this is tied to a commission
Right, so
for their
start
term.
in January of the next city.
But all the current appointees the terms have expired. So,
I'm talking about the commissioners, tied to commissioners. So if they come to us again when the commissioners are up, so the next we can get what?
well, if the terms have expired, again,
Okay.
if the terms have expired, we need to appoint new members.
Right.
That would come up again in January. when
I believe it would come up, I believe the way this is interpreted would come up again in January after the new commission is sworn in, yeah.
So can language be, I know we adjusted language in a previous, can we adjust the language now so that it's effective immediately, or is it understood? How? No, that's my question, just so I understand.
Is this the first reading or is this the second reading?
Second.
This is
So
second.
if we adjust language, we would have to go through those readings again, or how does that work?
If it's,
It terminates, this ordinance in the whereases terminates the current terms.
correct.
So the terms will be terminated. They will begin now. A part of this is that they can reoccur every January,
Mike.
but
Mike.
they also have a request. The ordinance does terminate the current board, and then a part of it is that it can start now and end when you like, because what we don't have is a request for resignation, and that is a part of the new ordinance. So even if it does restart, and that's why we didn't put a term in for when this term would be in, but it could be calendar year. It's interpreted as calendar year. Does that make sense?
Right.
So in next January is when you would start. And that also says too, you can request a resignation at any time, so the terms are fluid also. And that's the flexibility that we wanted to give with this. If somebody's out or something, or things change and someone wants to be off or something like that, you can request that.
So does, just for understanding, does the whereas make it effective immediately?
Correct.
Okay.
The whereas is hereby terminates the term of all current members.
Okay.
That's the third whereas.
So I have a question. Sorry, I don't know anything about it.
Mic.
We can't hear you.
Microphone.
So, does that mean the board is gone if this passes? I mean, so what happens if we have business coming up?
The members, they would have to reappoint it at the next meeting.
So they would stay in. So anything that we had coming up for July, we'll have to wait another month? No.
Another month, it would be the August meeting. Unless we had a special meeting in the middle, but we don't have one proceeding.
Thank you.
So then I have a question. Do we currently have business to be discussed?
Yes, sir.
And so, because mean, I'll go on record. The way I transition off of the planning and zoning board is by requesting to select an individual to replace me. And so, most likely, I'm going to appoint that same individual, and so I feel we definitely need to keep business moving. So if I don't know if we have to do a special, I don't know if we have the tolerance for a special meeting, but whatever we need to do to make sure that the business continue to move forward, I think it could be.
Right, you don't need to drop something.
Correct.
What kind of timelines involved?
Okay, so.
Can't, what's the spec?
You have to come.
Come on up.
Okay.
No, I will.
All right. Okay, so
I just want to know what the projects were.
we had a motion and a second. So does that need to be rescinded or amended?
No, leave it like it is.
Go ahead, sir.
The business that needs to be handled is of urgency for next month, or because I'm unaware of what business we're referring to. It's not business that can be handled in the following month. I don't know the time sensitivity to.
Usually whenever planning and zoning meet, they meet prior to presenting their recommendation to the commission. So that's why they would meet in the middle of the month usually, and then in that next commission meeting, they will present their recommendation.
So, I had a resident come to me yesterday, said that she was supposed to be on the docket for June. It didn't get there, I'm not sure exactly. She was here, she left, she was gonna come to speak on this, so I told her it would be on the July meeting. But that's the only thing, because I don't wanna hold her up.
She was supposed to be at P and Z or here?
Planning and zoning, she's asking for a variance.
Oh.
Is it the will of the commission to be able to select who they want to appoint right away?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not prepared.
Well, I'm not. I just put it out there, I'm not prepared
All right.
to appoint someone tonight.
Does it have to happen tonight, Mayor, or between now and?
I don't think it has to happen tonight.
Okay.
And I definitely will be prepared. Ooh, it's June. I definitely be prepared, by our next meeting, I'll be prepared.
Right.
Could we, make an motion of some kind to allow the current one to move over to
No,
the
she
July
said no.
meeting?
You know, they're out.
Say it again?
Have the board as it is right now, go to their July meeting, so they can handle these, current business, this lady. Because they have to meet in July
should stay
for us to
in.
get to our September meeting.
Understood what you're
Always.
saying. That's a tough situation.
Why did you leave?
Because if we pass this, then they technically, they're not available to handle the business. So,
Madam Mayor, there could be a special meeting for this. I'm not sure if you want to do that, but there could be.
yes, ma'am, I understand.
Also, if I could make a suggestion, since it will terminate this board, but since you're sitting, the current board, you can reappoint just for this one meeting. You would pass this, reappoint the current board, and then ask for their resignations immediately after that meeting, if that would help. Does that make sense?
It does.
And that's a part of what we put in here is that they serve at your will now. Instead of this whole thing about going through a process, they're at your will. So right after that meeting, you can reappoint them tonight, ask for their resignations, and then we'll make sure, whoever your choices are going into the future on that board.
Okay. How we put that in a motion?
Oh, no, pass this.
Oh,
Pass this.
They're gonna reappoint the current board, as wherever the members are, if we have a list, they can just check, check a member.
We're gonna ask for the resignation after the next
After that.
meeting? Okay, that's.
And then they can be reappointed, but this will terminate that board.
all right. So there is a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing that there is none, all in favor of adopting ordinance 2024-06, amending members of the Planning and Zoning Board, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, all right. Now, is there a motion? Yes, ma'am.
We need a motion to extend the meetings to 9 o'clock.
We need a motion to extend the meeting to cover the remaining items.
I move to extend the meeting to fulfill the remaining items on the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye to extend the meeting. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're extending the meeting. All right. Now, is there a motion to reappoint the planning and zoning members to finalize business for the month of July and ask for their resignation?
I'd like to move to that, clerk is called up.
Oh,
Don't get too far behind.
gentlemen, when you're ready. Good night.
Ms. Kylie, if I may ask you a question while they're getting it together.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us about how the hotspot program is going?
It's going well. We have the two different programs. So we have the one that's for 2 weeks, that's $10 usage, and then we have our ECF program that we got through a grant that's going very well. We have about 7 hotspots. For that, they get it for 3 months and it's for free as long as they can prove that they're a student or unemployed.
Awesome. Thank you. That was one of the initiatives that I had.
Yeah, it's going very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, all right. Is there a motion to reappoint the current planning and zoning and for the month of July? And once the business of July is taken care of, we will ask for their resignation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
He said so moved in second. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor of reinstating the current P and Z for July, after which we will accept their resignation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Item 3.
Rain floodplain man.
Item 3, ordinance 2024-12.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, amending the City of Fort Meade Code of Ordinance to repeal Part K, subsection 26 through 96, 26 through 98. Repeal Article 6 of subsection 26-201, and repeal Article 7 of subsection 26 through 231. To adopt Part K, subsection 26 through 96, 26 through 111. To adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a flood plan administrator, to adopt procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas, to amend Chapter 6, buildings and building regulations, to amend the Florida Building Code, and for other purposes, providing for severability, providing for a copy to be kept on file with the city clerk, repealing all ordinance and conflict herewith, providing for applicability, providing an effective date.
Thank you. Whew. Mr. Burke. Oh, public, we'll now open up, public hearing. At this time, if you wish to speak on this ordinance, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Gotta go.
No one wishes to speak, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Florida Division of Emergency Management reached out to the city. They had done a review of our floodplain management ordinances, and they sent over their suggested revisions. We took those revisions, we provided them to council, and now they are before you at a second reading.
Okay. All right, awesome. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 2024-12.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor of adopting 24-12, amending floodplain management regulations, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item L, old business discussion item, fleet assets schedule.
Madam Mayor, I've asked Greg King to present this item.
Good evening again. In the interest of time, we did an analysis, and I have to make a correction. My fingers are moving too fast. In the last meeting, Commissioner Williams asked us to do a report of the city fleet vehicle, and it has been mentioned in the past that if you sit on Broadway, every 2 minutes you see a city truck flying by. We did an analysis, and we found that of the 61 FTEs, full-time equivalents, the city has 34 vehicles, which is fairly high for a city, except that we're such a small city. That works out to, in the second paragraph of the background, that is a ratio of 1 vehicle for every 1.8. I forgot the 1.8 city employees. And removing the 15 FTEs of the fire department, and there's 7 vehicles, that goes up to a 1.6 ratio. So basically we at almost a man to a vehicle ratio. However, in speaking with the department heads, half of, maybe a quarter of the fleet at least, but up to a third of the fleet is specialized vehicles. Electric has 8 employees and 6 vehicles. 4 of those vehicles are dumpster high bucket trucks. 3 of them are larger high bucket trucks, 2 of them are smaller bucket trucks, and then they have vehicles to move the employees. And so that's why they have such a high number. And also the city has held on to vehicles longer than their lifespan. And they're beyond depreciation now. One of the things that we have not been doing, and it hasn't come up, and I can tell you, and I don't think we have, but we haven't been keeping these on our depreciation schedules, which makes us lose some of the expense from operating the vehicles and understanding when we are getting the benefit of extended useful life from their usage. Also, you'll note that the vehicles are fairly well maintained. They've had a couple of them for, I think one caught on fire, one was in an accident, and one was just inoperable that they've gotten rid of, but they have tried their best to maintain as many vehicles as they could. In speaking to the electrical director, there's some, they would like to kind of sort of forward think their vehicle planning, but it's only 8 of them. If they get a new truck, it's like if you get 4, it's half the group is in one truck. If you get a double cab, I'm saying. And so that is the report. And that we do have a lot of vehicles. A lot of them are specialized. And we will actually, and this has been a point of contention for interim city manager Burke, is making sure that these vehicles are properly expensed and kind of cataloged. We have fallen off on cataloging vehicles on the financial statements. I think those are part of the in-year adjustments that are done by the CPA.
What are the different categories for cataloging?
Just useful life, and useful life will be the biggest thing. One of those massive bucket trucks, I don't know what the useful life is. We have to look at a schedule. and how we would depreciate that. We have had some vehicles also that we've leased and they become purchases, so that becomes, a lease is an expense. And then if we purchase at the end of the lease, and some of them we've been able to purchase for $1, which is great, but if you purchase at the end of the lease, and it's for an amount, a significant amount, then you would have to depreciate that over a schedule. Significant. Yeah. So, and that is, do you want to have any questions regarding the schedule?
I have a question, and Madam Mayor, I'm not exactly sure if this is legal. I'm noticing on the fleet asset schedule, my specific question is, are there legal or ethical concerns with the city purchasing vehicles from a sitting commissioner or an elected official?
That is a question, I think, from the attorney. I could answer that.
And I understand that there can't be an answer provided tonight. I didn't know if there needed to be a move or a motion by the commission to investigate. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think there's a need for an investigation at this point, but we can bring back to you the next meeting a, extensive answer regarding that.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Thank you. New business, item M2.
This is resolution 2020.
Yes. Item 2024-46.
A resolution of the City Commission of Fort Meade, Florida, authorizing the submission of a loan application to the state of Florida's revolving fund loan program to finance the city's water treatment facility structural integrity, flood resilience and power supply reliability upgrades project, designated and authorizing the city's representatives for the loan application process and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you. Hi, how are you?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Greg Lang, Vice President of the engineering firm Midtower Associates, who applied for these funds on behalf of the city. I'm here to answer any questions, but if I could, very brief background. After Hurricane Ian, this item M2 was a water treatment plant. It suffered some significant problems, and we uncovered, with the help of Mr. Tommy King, significant integrity and resilience and flood and power supply reliability problems. This grant came around. It was an appropriation by the federal government to the state of Florida. It's a 100% grant. It was due January 1st, so we worked on it through the holiday, and it was very, very competitive. I'm very pleased to say that Fort Meade was awarded $3,250,000 for this water treatment plant improvements. So this is the first step in the process. It's called a loan application because the federal money went to DEP State Revolving Fund, and that's how they work, but there's no loan involved. So this, if you approve this resolution as we recommend, we send the information up to Tallahassee, DEP, you will get back an agreement. And it'll be for the first phase, which is the planning phase of these improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any further questions or discussion on this item? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of adopting resolution 2024-46, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
My job, Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Item M3.
It's a law.
Resolution 2024-49, resolution 8. Sorry, I had it. A resolution of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, relating to the state revolving fund loan program, making findings, authorizing a loan application, authorizing a loan agreement, designating authorized representative, providing assurance, providing for conflicts, severability, and effective date.
All right, thank you.
Madam Mayor, thank you, and Commissioners. Again, this is the same program, but it was for wastewater treatment resiliency upgrades. again, after the hurricane left the city, and we went over with Mr. King's help and Tommy King's help and evaluated what happened and what could be done to mitigate these problems. And we found severe vulnerabilities. Aged pumps at both effluent and influent pumps, insufficient capacity of those pumps, and challenges related to the generator. We made an application that was funded for $6,130,000, again entirely grant funding, and again this is the first step in sending this information to DEP. The city gets back in agreement to begin the planning process.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Lane? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of adopting resolution 2024-48 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lane. All right, M4.
Resolution 2024-49. Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, approving change order number 4 for the Park A SRF WWSYS Improvements Project, authorizing the construction of an additional invert at manhole M49 and providing for effective date.
So this change order is simply ties into another project that's already been granted and underway, and that's the lift station. New lift station that will be located up here on the north side of town, north of the park. This is the end of the line for the SRF project, and to alleviate having to dig up the ground and do this all over again, they're already there tearing up the city, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
They can go ahead and knock out that work right now, so we don't have to do it again. There's sufficient additional funds left over in the SRF so far that should cover this, so it'll be no cost to the city. We're hoping to have a surplus when we're all said and done.
Tom, where exactly is that lift station going to be?
That lift station is going to be at the American Legion.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and this was a project that was.
As far as we switched off to service
property,
land
yeah.
for the property, right.
Yes, sir. And then it also opens up to some future growth north of town.
Right.
Awesome. Awesome. Any further questions for Mr. King? Mr. Tommy King.
And I just wanted to also, real quick, go back, thank Mr. Craig for coming in. I know when I approached him with this, it's a SOFI grant, y'all probably heard that thrown around, but them working this out, it's gonna be huge for the city to take care of a lot of infrastructure, so thank you, Mr. Lane.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2024-49.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of adopting resolution 2024-49 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Resolution 2024-50.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Meade, Florida, approving 5 pole attachment agreements with Charter Spectrum Communications for the installation of new strand and fiber optic cable on city-owned power poles, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Charter has recently approached the city about installing fiber wires on our electric poles. You can see in the attachments the map on where these installations are going to go. We recommend that the city approve this resolution and execute the 5 pole attachment agreements with Charter.
Yeah, is it just about 5 something a pole?
It's $13.89 a pole per year. There's 49 poles, so it's a financial impact of around $600 per year.
It's not free.
Correct.
And they all will maintain it.
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right.
And this area is not currently being serviced. This is a new map?
This is where these new lines are going to go.
So they're not currently there?
Well, I don't know if they're being, who's servicing there. this is what we have. Oh, these are the fiber wires with the new installation.
So it's already taken place?
Part of this, yes, and I've got it broken out into two.
It hasn't happened yet, but this was showing everything together. If they put all this, sorry. The map that's in there is showing everything with the proposed pole attachments now, so that we can show you the whole entire city where everything was covered with what's proposed.
So we don't know which one's exactly is Spectrum and which one is?
We do, we just don't, it doesn't say on that map. And there, in all of the agreements in there, there's addresses and it gives you maps inside every single one of those agreements. And we have the right-of-way permits to go with each of those. Sorry, I'm related that to you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2024-50.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Second, excuse me.
There's a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor of adopting resolution 2024-50 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item M6, impact fee review.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In recent discussions with our city director, they let me know that the city is not recovering its physical costs, its installation costs when new construction comes in. And we see evidence of this in Mike B's presentation tonight. We're no longer breaking even. We've done an impact fee survey. Our impact fees are not in line with other communities. I did not include that survey here because it is several hundred pages, but if you'd like access to it, I'm happy to present it. So this is really to start a discussion on the city needs to update its impact fees if it's going to be sustainable in the future, because right now it's losing money on every new build that comes into town.
So you're basically saying there's no fees being collected at all, or it's just not enough?
It's not enough. It's not even covering our material costs
Okay.
in some instances.
Okay.
If you're wrong, I'm not wrong, sir, you said we have done the studies.
We did a survey, but we did not do a study.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What does the survey consist of?
It consists of everyone else's impact fees in the area with the ordinances that went along that enacted those impact fees. So it's a bunch of data. It hasn't been, I wouldn't call it a study because it hasn't been organized, but it's just a whole bunch of information. Raw data on impact fees.
And this is for all the utilities, or?
I would recommend a study on all the utilities at this point.
That will cover both residential and commercial?
Yes, sir.
I think that's feasible. I think it is necessary. If we anticipate growing at the rate that we're thinking, it's definitely paramount to ensure that we are receiving proper fees for people doing business in our city.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question for legal. This says by combining RFQ and RFP. I've never seen it done that way. Is that a lawful way of conducting business, combining an RFQ along with the RFP?
I don't think that there's a rule against it.
We get a copy of that RFQ when you get it done.
If the commission so moves to allow it, yes, sir.
Alright. Any further questions or comment? I definitely think it's necessary to complete the necessary study so that we'll know, come back with the information and we'll know what practices, best practices to take.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Question? No question? All right, moving right along. Item 7. Item 7.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Would the commission like to pass a motion directing staff to do an RFQ on the impact fee study?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion, my bad.
So moved. I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to direct staff to do a RFP for impact study fee. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. All right, motion carries. All right, item 7. All right, come on up.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. The city of Fort Meade began an initial search for a permanent city manager in August of 2023. After reviewing the resumes and conducting several interviews, the initial search.
We can't
Can I hear you?
The city of Fort Meade began an initial search with permanent city manager in August of 2023. After reviewing the resumes and conducting several interviews, the initial search did not culminate with a hiring of a permanent city manager. The city commissioner requested that the job be reposted, and the posting attracted 19 total candidates, with 4 of those having a background as a city manager. At the commission meeting that was held on 5/14 of 2024, the commission was instructing the Human Resource and Risk Management Office to schedule a Zoom interview. Among the 4 candidates, only Edward Walker Dean and Sean Gilman confirmed that Zoom interview. The Zoom interview was conducted on June 4th of 2024. The interim city manager, Dustin Burke, has also showed an interest during this time, and he also applied in August 2nd of 2023. The mayor, vice mayor, and the commissioners were instructed after the Zoom interview to pick a minimum of 2 questions, before the interview, to pick 2 questions that they would like to ask the candidates during the Zoom interview. The mayor, vice mayor, and 2 commissioners submitted their list of questions directly to the Human Resource Office. We had 14 questions with 1 that turned out to be a duplicate during that time, and I'll show you the results down here at the bottom of what is in your binders in preparation for today's meeting. During the Zoom interview that took place on June 4th of 2024, the mayor, vice mayor, and 2 commissioners, each member of the commission, completed an interview evaluation form with 2 of the candidates that were attending. The scores are below for the 2 candidates with a maximum overall score of 70. At this time, the commission has a task of filling the executive city manager position.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
All my grade scores here, there was a miscut. One of my scores was not moved up the tally sheet. I went into this Georgia and it's corrected. So my tally on Mr. Dean is 65. Instead of 60.
Oh, okay. All right. Duly noted. Okay, and I'm up for a discussion. Are you guys, excuse me, wanted to just make sure that we considered or gave consideration to our current city manager, interim city manager, Dustin Burke. So if you all want to discuss or if you're prepared to vote, what say ye this body?
I'd like some clarification, please. Originally, there was a nepotism involved on this, and the attorney said at that time, they said he could serve as an interim, but not as a permanent.
We changed his
That was y'all attorneys.
Changed his mind.
Your firm, Norman.
No, I don't like that verbiage.
Nope.
I'd
Nobody
like,
recalls
I'd
that.
like an opinion then.
What?
Well, just based upon the statute that Mr. Powell did read from and our handbook, the City of Fort Meade's handbook, it states that basically, in layman's term, nepotism would only occur if Mr. Burke were the current city manager and were to have hired
Right.
Mr.
Right.
Zahara.
Right.
That is what the law stated.
Right.
That's what he explained to us 2-3 times.
Yeah.
That's what he explained.
That's what the handbook references for the statutes.
Correct, and that is what the statute does reference. Since Mr. Zahara is already an employee, him becoming the interim city manager did not violate that statute because he did not hire Mr. Zahara.
That's right.
Okay, so that kind of answered that question, right?
Madam Mayor, I also spoke to Mr. Powell briefly, who indicated that he did not and would not have stated that, nor is that in the contract that he has, that you guys gave him, or anything like that, and there's no rule, and he's unaware of any prohibition that would prevent him, sitting manager.
All right, well, I just, wanted to make sure I understood what he said on multiple occasions, so, any other further discussion?
Well, I do know 112, the state statute does supersede the municipal code. I'm not disputing what they say, I'm just saying what I believe when I read it. That's what I'm.
Okay, so now y'all have law degrees. So what happened is, the lawyer that we are paying, I do not believe he would risk being disbarred to say that a person that he doesn't know, is not affiliated with, could do something that is illegal. And I think you guys owe them that due respect. I mean, we
Incorrect, I may have been, might have been the first call.
They're not wrong. Come down, you all. Come, we got it. We got it. We got
It may have been the
it.
first call firm that made the promotion, because it was changed that night.
Yeah, it may
So,
have been.
so,
Certainly
I'll
went
through
through
that.
this one.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, I do believe, just the lawyer would not risk his license.
That's right.
Point blank. Period.
We'll see. What is this?
Not for me, not for you, not for him, not for anybody in this room.
We'll see.
That's just common sense. So I hope that we can move beyond that. I thought we had.
Right.
But let's just move beyond that. If you have another reason why if you don't want to consider Mr. Burke, that's your prerogative. That's all of our prerogatives. Let's agree to disagree, but just let's stop taking jabs at our legal team and saying they are incorrect in doing their jobs. That's just it.
And they're our legal team, not.
We got it, y'all. We got it up here. Thank y'all. Okay. So we have a matter at hand. There's no need to just keep belaboring something that doesn't exist. So what the matter at hand right now is, if you want to express your opinion on an individual that interviewed and is being considered for city manager, now is the time to do that.
Okay. Madam Mayor, if I
Yes.
can, just for clarification for the records, for the discussion, it would be for 3 candidates.
Yes.
And I just want to mention their names for the record.
Okay.
It's going to be Edward Walker Dean, Sean Gilman, and Mr. Interim City Manager Burke.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question for
Yes.
Mr. George. George, could you explain why we weren't provided a score sheet for Manager Burke?
Okay, yes. So that's a good question. As you know, I came into this role when the majority of this was already in motion. But from my point when I stepped into this role, We have completed the interviews for Edward Walker Dean and Sean Gilman. Sorry, I'm losing my voice tonight. Mr. Interim City Manager Burke was already in the role of Interim City Manager. I saved it all night to speak, and I lost my voice. He was already filling the role of Interim City Manager at the current time that we were doing the interviews of Edward Walker Dean and Sean Gilman. So what we did on June 4th of 2024 was take 2 external candidates and move them up to a position where they're almost in line with Interim City Manager Burke at that point for a discussion for tonight's meeting. And so there was no position at that moment or direction from the commission for me to have any form of a scorecard for Mr. Interim City Manager Burke at that time. We were moving candidates that were external up to a position where we could then present all 3 to you tonight.
So is that what took place? I wasn't here. We were only interviewing external.
Yes, I thought that was a general consensus of the commission. That's what we voted to
Because in
do.
the replay, it said nothing about external. So I felt like when I saw this in this thing, where did that come from? I didn't know he had even expressed wanted to participate. But also, I specifically asked for what the process was. And that was not explained at that time. At the conclusion of the meeting, I specifically asked how would this process work going forward, because I did not want to, at the last minute, be informed of anything that changes any part of the process. Do you recall that?
I recall something a little different. In all fairness, sir, it was in relation to the scorecard that you had in your binder that night with the second piece.
No, it was the entire process, not scorecard. No. It was the entire process.
If I can finish, sir, it was the second piece of the scorecard that I was understanding. It was, I believe, appearance. You didn't want to score appearance on the 2 Zoom interview candidates that night. And so what I did that night was the 2 candidates aren't scored on that section at all.
Gotcha. So if you recall, I stated, it was something that I wanted to say during the meeting. So when I brought that to your attention and the others that was here, it was not solely about appearance. It was, I should have said it when it was asked to me, did you have anything else to say? And I said, it was something I wanted to say. I wanted to say something on appearance because they were on Zoom and we could not see them. So would it be appropriate to score them on appearance when we weren't able to see them? That is what that was regarding.
We saw them. And for the record, they are not on this scored for that section and appearance.
Correct. Well, that part, but I wanted to clarify that when I said what I said, it had 0 to do with appearance. That was an afterthought.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
And we started this process long back. We advertised for applications, and I believe and then we advertised the second time. And at one point in time, the first or the second, Mr. Burke did apply, and the selections were made. His application was not moved forward. And that's why it did show up later on.
Okay. All right. Well, at the end of the day, you can still choose or not. I mean, so that's where we are. That's what we have. We have the 3 candidates, and I do believe, I think at one of our meetings, it wasn't the last one that we did the interviews, but I think when it was brought up about bringing the candidates in to be considered, those who had previously applied, I did state, of course, we would include the current interim manager.
That's right.
I do recall stating
That's
that.
right.
So Madam Mayor, sorry, I don't know where we are in the discussion, but I'd like to make a motion that we hire Mr. Dustin Burke as our permanent city manager.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Also, if I may, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Really Sam?
I've probably not been at 3 commission meetings over the past 2.5 years. Not from just what's on paper. What's on paper, it's very clear that Mr. Burke is qualified for this position.
Yeah.
All the conversation that we cycle about moving this city forward, I remember saying the evil that you do know is better than the evil that you don't know. I don't understand why this is a difficult conversation and move, but I want to voice that what Mr. Burke has done and the staff has tremendously moved this city forward over the past 3 months.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. There's a motion on the floor to extend a contract to Mr. Burke. Is there a second?
Really Sam?
Seriously.
All right, if there's no second, the motion will die.
That's pretty
Thank you, Dustin.
Say it, Sam.
Motion will die.
Say it,
Madam
Sam.
Mayor,
Say
I would like to
it.
make a motion that we hire Edward Walker Dean as our next city manager.
No.
Second?
Oh, please.
There's a motion and on the floor to hire Mr. Edward Walker Dean, and there is a second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
That's wrong. Sam, we know. Let's go, Mike.
There is serious concern that I have with hiring Mr. Dean, Mr. Burke removed from thoughts in stating just on the information that has been we all can find online and the amount of money that he cost where he was previously employed. There's a long list of similarities from previous city management that shows up here, and I just don't understand why we would make a move to go back. I'm dumbfounded by it, Madam Mayor, and so I just want that to go on record. I'm very concerned about the information that I've been able to find, and also, yes, I'm concerned for our city, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why pick low-hanging fruit when you got an apple sitting right there?
Motion. All right, you guys. We can respectfully to disagree. All right? Thank you. All right. So there is a motion and then there is a second on the floor. All right? And what all in favor of hiring Mr. Edward Dean Walker on the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Oh my God.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-5.
Shame on you. You guys. Sam, you ain't no good.
You gonna get it next time. I bet I'm gonna vote for him.
One moment. One moment. I'll express my opinion, which I'm entitled to. My perspective is this. Mr. Burke, and you said shame on you. I didn't expect that. Sometimes we say we respect the will of the commission. Again, we don't do everything that everybody likes. That's clear.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, my reason, I can't speak for anyone else. You have done a stellar job.
Yeah, thank you, Dustin.
You and we did talk extensively. You've done a stellar job of bringing the city back, of getting a lot of alignment, a lot of things that were misaligned, aligned. That's appreciative. That doesn't go without recognition. But for me, I was looking for someone with more experience with the city, just like ours. I believe Mr. Walker has that experience. I've spoken with several other city officials who he worked for and is currently working with about his performance and the things that he is able to get done. And so I believe that same type of characteristic, that same type of motivation, that same type of forward thinking and experience. That's the one thing I believe that he did have on you, is the experience.
Forward thinking, but they're gonna see.
That's it, the experience.
Still gonna be.
And for me, it's looking for someone that can take us to where the vision of the commission of what we have for the city. And it's still gonna go forward. And you just never know. We never know. But that was my reason. So, the will of the commission is we will extend the contract with Mr. Edward Dean Walker, Ms. McWhorter. So I guess you guys will have to draw up a contract, reach out to Mr. George, Mr. Dean, to let him know the will of the commission, and see if there is a contractual agreement that can be established.
They don't want change though, they don't like forward moving. They have a personal issue with him. And that's sad.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Start dates that when are you looking to have him start? If he has any conflicts, do you want me to contact you and let you know?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Thank you.
All right.
That's sad.
Any additional comments? We have here on the agenda, the report of the mayor. I don't really have any reports. Any additional comments by interim city manager Burke?
I have none.
Thank you, Dustin.
City attorney?
Yes, I'd like to raise the issue really quickly about the public official, and you were talking about whether they would be able to sell cars or whatever. I'm not privy to knowing who that is or anything like that, but obviously it's outside of our purview as the attorney or yours to deal with that. There's a commission that deals with that. That's an ethics commission. That would be that anybody who has questions about that would need to go through that commission. However, there is a statute 112 that says that a public office or employee is prohibited from holding any employment or contract with any business entity or agency regulated by or doing business with them. And that's a statute, and anybody that wants to question that regarding anybody would need to go through the commission.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the follow-up. All right. Any future agenda items of the commission? And for the good of the order? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
The community center and the Boys and Girls Club. That contract, when does that contract end? I think that was one of the things that was passed of.
Yeah, we talked about, I think, not at the last meeting, but it came up.
So we could find out that and so what's the duration of that contract.
I don't remember if we came up with a date that night or.
I don't remember.
I'll let you give this man this much pushback.
I don't remember when their contract is up. I think Melissa, you had told me, but I don't remember. Because I had asked that question myself as well.
They'll run him away.
Yeah, it's 3 years, and I think this would probably be the last year. Because they are making plans to come back before the commission. I think in July or August. All right, if there are no further questions, comments, or complaints, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
You have a motion? Is there a second? All right, there's motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Dustin, appreciate it.
Appreciate it.